Cool.
Hello.
Ooh, awesome. It is so cool to be live with everyone here. Welcome to today's live. And today is a very, very special live because it is a multiplayer project. So we have a special guest here today called Maximus. I actually think, Maximus, you might have muted yourself. So it might be helpful to check if you're still muted. And if everyone is in the chat, please come say hi in the chat. I'm so excited to be doing this with everyone in the community and also with Maximus here because it's going to be our very first time doing multiplayer stuff. And I think when things are multiplayer, you get to learn together, you get to also collaborate, you get to discuss. And I think Maximus is also a lot of fun. If you haven't met Maximus before, you would see him a lot in our social media accounts on TikTok, on Instagram, and you'll also see him around in the community as well.
Nah, I think you actually muted me.
I don't think I've muted you. It's just the guests has muted themselves.
No.
Are you still muted?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, let me see if I can unmute you. That's hilarious.
It's pretty typical. When we tested this before, it worked perfectly. And then now.
Oh, that's so annoying. Let's see if poor Maximus is still being muted. I think from my end it says that you should be able to unmute yourself.
Should I try hang up and then rejoin?
Yeah, you can.
I can't. When I click the mute button, it doesn't do anything.
Alright, you can give that a go. We'll let Maximus rejoin. Hopefully he will be unmuted when he does. But it's so cool to have everyone coming and saying hi in the chat in the meantime. Thank you so much, Aravind. We also have Jerome. We have Masola as well. Woohoo! And I think...
Okay, I think we're good. No mute button. Let's go.
Okay, that's cool. Well, let us know in the chat if you're seeing that there's a lot of echo between us because we're actually in the same room right now. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can see that. We just did a high five. If there's echo right now, just know that the echo will eventually level off in about like 1 or 2 minutes. And in the meantime, just let us know if there's any audio issues at all. Okay, well, without further ado, now that we've said hi to Maximus, our special guest, and now that we have everyone in the community slowly trickling into today's live, we can get into introducing today's project. So today's project is called Deploy an App Across Accounts. And what that means is you can now move your app into another AWS account in this pair project. I see that we have a comment saying that I'm echoing, but that's totally okay. Like, let me know if I'm still echoing in about 2 minutes, Kemi, and then we'll keep going. So in this hands-on pair project on cross-account deployments, get ready to, number 1, build a Docker container image for your custom app. Number 2, store your image securely in Amazon ECR, which is the service that we're using today. It's called Elastic Container Registry. And number 3, share your container image with your project buddy. So Maximus and I will be sharing our container images that we built, and we'll try to deploy each other's image using Elastic Beanstalk. And actually today we'll be doing a slightly easier version that's using just the local host. So Elastic Beanstalk will be a thing for our secret mission, which will become something that you'll see coming through maybe in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
So
in the near future.
In the near future. So with that being said, Maximus, do you kind of get what cross-account deployments might mean?
I guess so. From what I understand, we're going to deploy something on our own local host and then try and share it to each other, kind of send it back and forth like a message, and then hopefully deploy something that's live in public eventually, but probably not in this project, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. So in this project, you will be deploying or...
Please fix mic settings. We just see a couple voice echoing. Please fix the mic settings. How about?
Does this sound better?
Cool. We'll let them know. We'll let them let us know if the echoing gets a bit better. So Maximus has just muted himself. Hopefully that helps. And what we see usually is when Maximus unmutes himself, sometimes there's a bit of like echoing in the first minute or two, but eventually it'll be okay. So thank you so much for your patience, and then we'll keep going. Thank you so much, Arabin, for saying it's okay right now as well. But yeah, so what Maximus has said just now about what cross-account deployments mean is absolutely spot on. So what's really going to happen here is, so far in all of your AWS projects, you have been creating things in your own account, and when it's successful, you get to run it in your account as well. Now with cross-account deployments, you're working with someone else, because you're going to see if your container or something you build can actually work on someone else's account as well. What's also fun about cross-account deployments is you also get to figure out how can you make your application available on a different account that's not yours. Once you actually put all of those things in practice, you actually learn a few things that you might not pick up on just with theory alone. So thank you so much everyone in the chat for also saying the voice is better now. And Joe saying, ooh, an early stream. It is an early stream today, Joe. And Erwin says, it helps. It helps. Okay, great. Thank you so much everyone for letting us know the audio is better now. And yeah, this is our diagram for today. You can see that, there's you and there's your buddy, and you're working on your own thing, for most of this project. But when it comes to actually hosting or deploying or running each other's apps, you'll be doing the other person's application. Okay, and why care about cross-account deployments anyway? Why does this concept exist? So in the real world, teams do manage multiple AWS accounts to stay organized and secure. So you might even hear about a company saying, hey, we're going to do separate AWS accounts to manage our different environments. Like production is in this environment, testing is in this one. And all of that is just so that if something goes wrong on one account, that issue is isolated in that place and it doesn't spread too far, for example. And it also really helps with just making sure that a developer that's only supposed to work in the developer environment doesn't end up affecting or getting access to some precious data or precious information that only people who are in the production environment should have access to. So when you have so many different accounts set up, cross-account deployments makes it very easy for you to move your applications or services between these accounts. Otherwise, it can be like, okay, I have an application here. How the heck am I going to move it over and make sure that it can be tested and make sure I can reiterate on things multiple times every day? Engineering teams need to work very, very fast. And any kind of slowdown when it comes to just trying to move an application across, that can be quite a costly thing to do. So being able to work out cross-account deployments and making it very, very smooth is just great when it comes to efficiency, and it also makes sure that your accounts don't end up having to overshare access just to be able to share like an application across different accounts. Awesome. So let's roll up our sleeves, get these done in the next hour or two. And if you're looking at this async, if you're wanting to find a project buddy, the best way to find your project buddy is just by sending a message in the community. So you can send a message that's like, hey everyone, anyone down to try next week's multiplayer project together? Just say hi in a reply and we can sort out a time to work on it together. I promise that the community is a very, very supportive place. Like everyone is on this journey together. We're all just trying to help each other out, support each other, and learn together. So sending a message like this, I can promise you that people won't be judgmental, that people will be supportive, that people will jump in and want to learn together. So yeah. I am so curious to see who will be the very, very first person to send that message. I think this will go down in history as the first person to ever send like a multiplayer project request, and I'm sure it will be out of like thousands and millions to come. Cool beans. All right. So now you're here, you get to choose your player. Are you player A or are you player B today? So I'm going to be choosing player A, and Maximus will be choosing player B. And then we'll get started with this project. Don't forget that player B is your project buddy in crime in this one. So the more you share and discuss, the more you get to learn together. All right, and with that being said, if you want documentation for your project, all you gotta do is fill out some of the questions that get passed your way during this project. They will look like this. Okay, they will look a bit like this, and you just need to answer all of them and click done, and you'll get awesome documentation generated at the very end of this project. Cool stuff. Okay, So I think we're ready to start step 1 now. And before we start step 1, let's talk about what we're here to do today. So in this special multiplayer project, I'm working with a buddy to... Ooh, do we think we know how to answer this question? What do we think, everyone? So have a go at this question yourself. Add it in the chat how you'll answer this question, while Maximus and I will try to type our responses too. Cool. Multiplayer project. Maximus, you can't look at my answer, by the way. I'm working with a buddy to conduct cross-account deployment. What this means is my buddy and I will be creating our individual applications, containerize them, use ECR to swap our containerized apps, and try deploy. The classic net curse is that I'm always running out of characters in these boxes. So I'm working with a buddy to conduct. I'm working with a buddy on cross-account deployments. What this means is my buddy and I will be creating our individual applications, containerize them, use ECR to swap our containerized apps, and try deploy it. All right? Cool. Now that that's done, let's have a look at what's next. My project buddy is, and their reason for learning AWS is, well, it looks like we'll have to ask Maximus himself for us to learn what is Maximus's reason for learning AWS. In the meantime, hi to Rahul, hi to King of Zamunda in the chat. Hola, Nat and the rest of the team, great to see you. Great to see you too, King of Zamunda. It must be early over for you there. What time is it for you? I'm guessing it's like 7 a.m. You must be an early bird. All right, I'm gonna mute myself and let Maximus have a say. Why are you learning AWS, my friend?
Well, the reason I'm learning AWS is because Natasha actually asked me about a few hours ago if I could do this live with her. And I've been learning AWS for the past few months, but when I joined Nextwork, I really, really enjoyed it. But part of the reason I love learning AWS is because Natasha is such a good teacher.
Damn. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is very, very sweet. He's never this sweet. So maybe I should be running lives with you more, Maximus, because that's like the only time you'll be nice to me.
I'm sure everyone in the chat will agree that Nat is an awesome teacher.
Thank you so much. And hey, heads up, everyone. If we're still echoing, please let us know. We would love to know. All right. So my project buddy is Maximus. You know what? We're all doing this project today. So our project buddy is Maximus over here. Their reason for learning AWS is because Nat is such a great teacher?
Because Nat is such a great teacher. And just before that, Nat, can I ask, what is your reason for learning AWS?
Ooh, yeah. I think my reason for learning AWS is all about understanding the world and how the world works. Like the moment you start to understand AWS and you start to understand cloud in general, you start to really get why things are the way that they are, in terms of the way, for example, the way Netflix works, or why is it that, you know, why is it that when I take a photo of something on my phone, that there is a way for me to just automatically see that on my laptop as well. Mm-hmm. Once you have that understanding of the world, it gets really exciting. You start to think about, like, oh, how can I build this for myself? And you start to really understand the way things can be improved as well. I have a huge admiration for people who are actually using AWS in their everyday lives, or people who are using AWS to create things. And I think that's something that a lot of people in the community are something that a lot of people in the community share too. So that's my reason.
That is awesome. I recently talked to a student in the community who got into AWS because they saw the iPhone storage say your storage is full. So it piqued their curiosity into learning, okay, what is this? Why is my iPhone storage full? What is the cloud? How does this work? And for me, obviously Nat is such a great teacher, but I have a very similar story in the sense that I really want to understand the root problem of things. And for massive companies like Netflix and Spotify, I wanted to understand how they work. And once I learned about cloud, and I'm still on this journey, I find it so interesting, all the things that you can do on the cloud.
Hot damn. Well, I really love like understanding people's reasons for learning AWS, and I think if you guys are keen to add yours in the chat as well, that would be awesome. That would be awesome, and we love to read it out. Cool. So say cheese. If you don't have your cameras on when you're doing this with your project buddy, it's okay. You can take a screenshot of you guys saying hi together. But in the meantime, what would be quite fun is if you just take a photo with your project buddy here. So I'll just be saying 3, 2, 1, Maximus, and then I'll be taking a screenshot of us with the chat open as well. So anyone that's in the chat, you'll also be in this photo with us. But yeah, let's take a quick photo on my computer. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Nice.
Cool. So I have a photo of us together here. It's right over here now.
And I
think it's all
also took one.
I think you can even see that the chat's open here as well. So that's perfect. All right. Select done, and we're gonna move on. Woo! Step 1. We're already up to step 1. Let's do this. Do you want to start? Do you want to give it a go? I'm going to change the screen so that we're watching you now, Maximus. Do you want to give it a go with reading out what we're doing in this step?
Yeah, for sure. Let's look at step 1. So step 1 says build your container image. So let's start player B. We'll create a simple web app and package it into a Docker image to kick things off.
Nice.
I don't think they can see my screen yet now.
Yeah.
This will be the image that player 1 will run later on. So in this step, we're going to create files for building a Docker image, and then we're going to build a Docker image locally. So we can actually take a look here in this project validation box, and we can fill in our answer. So in this step here, so in this step, we're going to create our files for building our Docker image.
Nice. You mind to share your screen, by the way?
Can you can see my screen?
Not yet.
Now, can you see this?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We can see it now.
Okay, nice. Okay, so in this step, I will create files for building my Docker image. For building a Docker image. Because, and I'm assuming that we're doing this so that we can build our Docker image locally. Is that the reason that we're doing this?
Yeah, that's correct. So you'll be creating files for building a Docker image, and then you'll be working with Docker to actually create that image locally.
Nice, that makes sense.
Very
So,
nice.
because to build a Docker image locally, cool. And then we're wanting to use Docker to do this.
Yeah, so you'll be using Docker to build an image.
Mm-hmm. Cool. What else would you add to this, Nat? I can see you want me to add something else.
No, I think you've done perfectly.
Is that all good?
I will click done. Yeah.
Okay, then we can hit done.
Yeah. All right. So, very cool for Vaishali to say hello, everyone. Abhishek saying hello, Maximus and Natasha. It's so good to see Abhishek here. Furaha is here as well, saying cheese. And thank you, Arvin and Joe, for letting us know that you can see Maximus's screen as well now. So much fun. I think everyone is in this together with us in this very first time they were running like a multiplayer project live. So King of Zamunda is saying that he can still hear the echo from my side. So let me know if that is still going, King of Zamunda. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back to my screen now so you can all see what's happening on my end. And here we go. So if you already have Docker installed, there are 3 things for you to do. You can just check in with your other player in this project. Do they also have Docker? Do they need any help with getting it installed? And then afterwards, you can just open Docker Desktop in your local computer and then scroll to the heading that's called Create Docker File in this step. Because how we're going to do this is if we want to create a Docker image, we need to be able to install the tool to do the job, which is Docker itself. Now we have the instructions for installing Docker over here, and we are treating Docker as a prerequisite for this project, which means ideally you should already come with Docker installed for this project, which is why we won't actually go through all the steps with installing Docker and opening it in this project. Both Maximus and myself already have Docker installed, so we can actually go straight into the next part, which is create Docker file. If you don't have Docker installed, don't panic. All of the steps for installing Docker is right over there. It takes about 10 minutes at most to do it. And you'll be up to this part in no time, promise. Work together with your project buddy to get Docker installed. And once you're ready, you can get started with the project. So this project really kicks off when you create your Docker file. So to create a Docker file, you need to create a folder on your desktop first, and we'll call that Docker ECR. And then you can also create the folder just by running commands in your terminal. Okay. To run commands in your terminal, you can just open terminal on your computer. And terminal, I think, is called command prompt for a Windows computer. Can someone using Windows correct me if I'm wrong in the chat as well, because I would love to know. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like on my computer. You should be able to see my screen like this. And all you have to do is the first command is you're going to navigate your terminal into your desktop, and that's called cd desktop like this. And then the next command is that you're going to make a directory. So that's called make directory like this, Docker ECR. Okay.
And Nat, can I quickly ask, what's the difference between doing it on your local terminal versus doing it in the Docker terminal on Docker Desktop?
Oh, honestly, there isn't a huge difference at all. So doing it in your Docker terminal and also in your local terminal, it's going to be the same. It's just that when you're using your local terminal, you're also just using an interface that you'll be using a lot more. The Docker terminal is great if you're just working with like Docker resources, but really your local terminal is where you want to be most of the time. You can treat the Docker terminal as a backup if for some reason your local terminal isn't working, but I think in terms of results and in terms of what you're creating, it should look the same between the two. But yeah, great question.
Nice, that's awesome.
And we'll make the directory by pressing enter on this thing. Okay, cool beans. So Maximus, do you see also your Docker ECR folder getting created on your desktop?
I do indeed.
He does indeed. All right. So open Docker ECR and you're going to see that it's empty. Well, that's okay. We want to start from an empty slate. That's all good. And when you're creating Docker ECR, you're kind of just creating a project directory here. So don't forget, in this step, what are we here to do, Maximus? What are we doing in this step?
In this step, we're going to be creating our files for our Docker image, and then we're going to be building it locally.
Very good, very good. So when we say we're going to create our files for a Docker image, we really need to set up a directory for that. It's kind of like a folder to contain all of those images, all the files you need to create that image. So let's put that together now by creating something called a Docker file. And you can do that just by running, again, a command in the terminal. So let us do that together now by running this handy little command called touch. Now, the thing about the terminal is it always needs to be in the right directory for it to be creating a file in the right folder, for example. So right now, don't forget, it's just in your desktop, but we actually want your terminal to be inside the Docker ECR folder you've just created. So what that means is we're going to use that handy little cd command again, and then we're going to cd this time into Docker ECR. So what that looks like is it could look like this. If you want to write the full path to get to Docker ECR, this should be foolproof. you should be in Docker ECR now. And if you're ever confused, you're ever worried, all you have to do is go use pwd, which is called print working directory, to double check which folder you're in right now. But yes, pwd is giving us confirmation that we're in the right folder. Docker ECR is the place to be, and this is where we're going to be creating Dockerfile by running touch Dockerfile. Okay, so you might be wondering, what is a Dockerfile? Because I think the concepts around containers and Docker, there are a few words to know, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. It's totally fair if it is. So let's talk about what it is and what the differences are. Cool. Oh, I'm just going to double check. Can you see that we're now looking at the Dockerfile project guide? Perfect. So a Dockerfile is a document with all the instructions for creating your container image. Think of it as a flow. So you're using Docker as kind of like your buddy here to create containers. And to really get to creating your own container, you need to be doing two things first. First, you need to write a Dockerfile. And that's like saying, hey, Docker, this is the kind of container I want to create. And then Docker is going to read that file and it's going to say, oh, okay, so these are the kind of containers that Maximus wants to create, that Rahul wants to create, that Arvin wants to create, whatever you've written in your Docker file. And then it's going to create a container image. It's going to build a container image off of those instructions that you've given it. It's going to say, okay, I see you. I know what kind of container you want to create. Let me create a template that's called a container image. That's kind of it's almost going to be your model container. Okay, and you have this container image and you can treat it as a template. Now, this template is going to be the template that you're sharing with other people. So I could be like, hey, Maximus, this is my container image. This is my template for the container that I want, the kind of containers I want. Now, Maximus, with my template, is going to say, oh, okay, I have your template. I know exactly what kind of container you like. And now whenever Maximus wants to run a container, it's going to say, from this template, run a new container. From the same template, run a new container. From the same template, run a new container. So I'm not actually passing the actual container to Maximus. What we'll be doing in this project is we're actually going to be passing the container image itself, that template. And when we're using ECR later on, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting this container image in the cloud so that Maximus can easily pull it down from the cloud and spin out as many containers as he wants that all follow the same template. All right, so that's really the flow from Dockerfile to container image all the way to containers that are actually running the application. So we're right now just in that step one. We've just created a Dockerfile, and that Dockerfile doesn't actually have contents yet. So we're gonna fill that in right away. Okay, so we've kind of gone through what a container image is. If you'd like a deeper understanding of it, you can absolutely read this definition. And you can also use our very new simplify feature to actually dial it down or boil it down even more for yourself as well. Okay. But yes.
I use that feature all the time. It's a great one.
It is a great one. All right. So we have just created touch Dockerfile. What that means is in your computer, if you have, let's see. Once you have Dockerfile created, look at that, it's just done, just from you running a command. You can actually open up Dockerfile like this, and it should open up in your preferred text editor. All right, so on a Mac, that's text edit. What is it on Windows? I think it's Notepad++. Ervin, is that right? I hope that's right. We also have Sabaranath in the chat saying, kindly add on how to handle environment in ECS and ECR. Ooh. That's very cool. I think ECS especially is a really, really great service to learn about if you want to learn about handling the environment, because ECS is where you get a lot of control over that. We won't be touching ECS in this project. ECS, if you don't know, is called Elastic Container Service. And that is honestly a bit more of a complex project, but we'll get to it eventually. Don't worry about that at all. Okay, so you have your Dockerfile open, it's empty, and you can now fill it in. So you'll fill it in using the two commands that are on here. It says from nginx latest, and then it says copy index.html and a bit of a file path over here as well. Edmund in the chat asks, this works in VS Code too, right? It definitely does. And thank you, Aravind, for confirming that it does. Very cool. All you have to do now is copy that code, paste that in here, and it should look lovely jubbly, just like that. All right. So, oh, I just realized this is looking a little untidy. So let me just tidy this up for everyone. You should be able to see that you have your Docker file with 2 lines in them. Cool. How's it looking for you, Maximus?
Looks exactly the same. That's awesome.
It looks awesome. Well, Maximus, what's your guess on what these 2 lines kind of mean? Just give a random guess.
Well, I remember from doing the first project, I think from Nginx latest is taking the latest template from Nginx, which I assume we're going to cover a bit later down the track, and then copy index HTML. I'm assuming that we're obviously copying an index HTML file so that we can change it later on, so that we can add in what we want to add into our HTML file. I don't know, that could be completely wrong.
Okay, I think you're honestly on a really, really good track there. We have an explanation on what these 2 lines mean. So the first line says, from Nginx latest, means we're starting with a pre-built container image called Nginx. It's kind of like we're reusing a classic recipe, which is the Nginx image, and then we're adding our own modifications. So your Docker file is pretty much saying, okay, we're going to use the Nginx image, and we're going to use the latest version of the Nginx image, and we're going to almost like copy and paste that. That's now going to be the base for your own image. But then the rest of your Docker file is how you're going to modify your copy and then make it your own. So you're going to make a copy of this existing Nginx image. You're going to like annotate it, do some changes, modify it however you want. And then you're going to save your Docker file. And now that Docker file, when Docker reads through it, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to make a copy of that Nginx image, but I'm also going to make all of these changes. And because I'm making changes, I'm technically making a completely new container image. I'm making a completely new template. So what does that change? We only have a single line in here. And that single line says copy index.html, and there's the file path. If anyone in the chat is also keen to explain what this means, give it a go. It honestly helps with your learning so much when you try to explain something. But really what's happening here is you're saying copy my index.html file, copy my file, and replace the file that's existing inside that Nginx template, that existing HTML file, with my file. So this is how we're modifying it. This Nginx template that we're copying is going to come with its own index.html file. So if I just ran that Nginx image, it's going to come with an existing HTML file, but we don't want that here. We want to make our own custom web app. So we say copy my file and replace the existing like default template file with my file. And that's it. That's our customization. So now what that really means is our container image is really going to be running and operating in the same way as this existing classic template called Nginx, but instead of running or displaying that Nginx default index.html, it's going to be displaying ours, one that we're going to be creating. Cool. And if you're not sure what Nginx is, it's a web server. So when you run in a container with Nginx, it just means that this container or this web server can now serve web pages to people on the internet. And you can definitely read more about Nginx over here as well. Okay, so let's quickly check in with our project buddy. So what have you just created? Try to explain your Docker files to each other. I think...
Yeah, so in this case, what we're doing is we're taking the Nginx default, and then we've added a line underneath that where it says copy index HTML, and that HTML file is our own HTML file, which we're replacing the default Nginx one, and we're going to customize that so that we can create our own container image.
Very nice. That sounds great. Big ups to Maximus for learning that new concept and then passing it back to us on how he's learned the concept of like Docker files, Nginx, how we're customizing it. Very, very good. And yeah, exactly. So how we're customizing it is by using our own index.html file. That's it. Duke in the chat says, hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. Duke, the party is just starting. So good to have you here. And we'll move on to the next step. If you're not sure where to find the project guide for this, by the way, you can check out the link in the description. So we have our Docker file ready now. It has 2 lines, okay? The first line says copy Nginx latest, and then the second line says from Nginx latest, and then the second line says copy index.html. Now we're going to actually create that index.html file because our Docker file is saying, use my index.html file, and we need to actually create that file now. How are we going to create it? With the terminal. All right, so this is a slightly more advanced project in the sense where we're going to try use the terminal as much as we can because terminal commands aren't actually as scary as they look. The first time you run a terminal command, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? The second time you run one, you're like, I kind of get it. I'm just going to run and see things work. And then the third, the fourth, the fifth time, it gets easier and easier. You almost just need as much exposure to the terminal as much as you can to really get comfortable with it. What about you guys? Have you used a terminal before? Are you feeling comfortable with it? Out of 10, how would you rate your comfort level with the terminal? Add it to the chat. I would love to know. We would love to know. It really helps us with understanding how we should write our future projects as well. So please let us know in the chat now while we run this command that creates the HTML file. All right. Again, touch makes it happen for us. And all we got to do now is open up this file that was created for us just by using the terminal. All right, boom, just like that, it was created. And we can open this with our preferred text editor like this. For us, it could be VS Code, it could be text edit. All right, and we'll open it up like this. All right, everyone. I'm very, very excited about this part because this is where you can get really creative and give your project buddy a surprise as well. So you can see that there's some template content over here that you can use. Copy that, paste that in your index.html, and now you get to customize it a little bit. Okay, so let's figure out how we're going to customize this, shall we? Okay, so in this index.html file, you get a few tags that encourages you to make this your own, okay? So you have a title that says, hello, player B's name, or your other player's name, or, hello from your name. This is where you insert your name. If you can see this, you've deployed my app. Nice work. You've unlocked my secret code too, and you enter a secret code over here. So that's pretty fun. I quite like this. And a shout out to Teslim as well in the chat for saying, I'm back. Been a while. It has been, Teslim. Welcome back. And I hope you enjoy this live. We're doing a multiplayer project today. All right, so I get to type in, hello, Maximus. Hello from the community at Nextwork, because we're all doing this project together. If you can see this, you've deployed my app. Nice work. You've unlocked my secret code. Oh my gosh, what should we put in the secret code, everyone? Replace secret code with your favorite food. If you can't decide your favorite food, enter your favorite movie, your favorite song. Do what you want with this one. And yeah, what would everyone type in as their secret code? I would love to know. I would love to know.
I've got a good one in there now.
You got a good one?
I've got a good
I
one.
actually have no clue what he's typing in his screen, so I have no clue what the secret code would be.
Yeah, I like
So
this.
you can't tell player B, or you can't tell the other player what you've written as your secret code.
No.
They can only find out at the end of this project when they've actually launched your app successfully.
Oh,
So
I will close my eyes then.
tensions are high. I'm gonna need to write down a really good. I'm gonna actually write down my favorite food because I'm gonna be. I'm just going to be an honest person. And Maximus, keep your eyes closed. I'm just going to show everyone here that you can also do something where you customize your HTML file even more by adding in an image. So shall we add an image as well for Maximus to see? I think that could be quite fun. So I'm going to quickly add in an image. Keep your eyes closed, Maximus.
I kind of want to see how to do this.
No. I show you how in the guide, so you can follow the guide for this one. Okay. Keep your eyes closed.
They're closed.
Okay, sure. They sure are. What kind of image should I use? I think let's use. Oh, What image should I use, everyone? I think I know what image I want to use.
This better not be a bad one, Nat.
No, it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be really good. I think. Yes, I think you'll be proud of me.
Oh, that worries me.
No, there's nothing to be. And because none of you have seen this image yet, no one has actually seen this image, so they can only see it once you've launched the app. And yeah, all they see right now is the URL to that image. They don't actually know what image I've used so far yet. So we'll see. I'm going to save my index.html. And
It'd be awesome to put in videos here. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but Nat also stars in a lot of the TikToks. And recently, she's gone viral for her excellent dance moves. So I would love to put a video in here if possible.
I will remove the guide on how to actually do that. How to insert an image. How to insert a video. Anyway, now that we've done that, Maximus, you can uncover your eyes now, and you can give this a go if you'd like to insert your own custom image. The instructions for that are actually just in the project guide too. Okay, so I hope that was clear to everyone how you could customize your HTML file. If you're wanting that guidance that I was showing to everyone, you can just find it in the project guide too by heading here. And you'll see the template work over here. Okay, cool. Joe says, Nat's dance moves, please share. You'll have to, I'll let you see Maximus's amazing dance moves first.
They will be all over social media, don't you worry, Joe.
Very cool. Oh no. Even Kemi's laughing now, Maximus. Okay, everyone. So once you have set up your index.html, that's actually a very, very fast and easy way for you to check if it works. Maximus, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes one more time, please. And what you have to do is you can try to right-click on your image. Right-click on your index.html and then select Open. Okay, and I'm just going to show to the entire community what image I've chosen for this project. And then the rest of the community can see. But yes, this is the special index.html I've set up for Maximus, and this is the secret code I have for him. We still don't know what his secret code will be or what his secret image will be, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. All right, thank you everyone. Maximus is a great dancer, says Aravind, and Urban says every YouTube live should start with a dance.
That is my guy right there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to shout you out on the Instagram.
Unbelievable. Okay, cool. So what were the tool files you just set up in your local environment and why? All right, so let's mention this. I set up a Docker file and an index.html. Both files are needed because the Docker file tells Docker what kind of container image I want to build, while the index.html file is required for me to customize the web page that Maximus will see basically, when it's deployed. When it's deployed. Okay, cool. My Docker file tells Docker to. Ooh. Well, our Docker file tells Docker to start our custom container image as a copy of an existing container image called Nginx, and then add my modification to it, i.e. use my own index. Use I'm going to change the mice to R. Use our own index.html file instead of the Nginx default. Cool beans. Okay, when that's done, we're going to click done. And nice work. The files for building your container image are all ready. And now we just need to build it. So easy, so quick. What does build mean? In software engineering, building means you're taking that source code that you've created. In that case, it's our Docker file. And then you're compiling it, you're packaging it into something else. In this case, that's the container image we're about to build. Well, really the source code, I would say, would include the index.html as well. So it's the Docker file and index.html because both of them need to be included in the container image that we're creating. Now, you haven't actually built the container image yet, okay? So far, you've created the Docker file. You've created the set of instructions that tell Docker how to build the image. But have you actually built the image yet? No, actually not yet. So think of Docker file like the recipe. All you've done is you've written out the recipe. You haven't actually baked the cake yet. You haven't actually created the dish yet. So this step that we're about to do now is where we actually run the commands to tell Docker to cook. We're gonna be like, Docker, you're gonna cook.
Yeah, cooking.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is you can just find the commands for building right underneath here. In your local terminal, we're gonna be running these two commands over here. Okay. And let us switch back so you can see this in action. Okay, cool. All right, so in my terminal, I'm going to be running a command called docker build x create -- use. So it's gonna look like this. Okay, and what that means is we've set up a special Docker builder, okay, when we use build x. And then we're gonna explain why in a second. The second command, whoa, slightly longer, I think, but it's okay. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so docker build x, we're gonna build, and we've defined two platforms here. Platform, there's Linux AMD 64, Linux ARM 64, and then there's a name for this as well. Network cross account Docker app. Let's just press enter and watch it run. Okay, so you're gonna watch Docker use the commands that you've written to build your Docker image. Now, why have we used build x? So if you've done the previous project, you'll notice that the only command we use for building is just called build. It wasn't build x. So we're actually using a special builder in today's project because build x is how we can build a container image that's compatible for multiple architectures. Isn't this interesting? We haven't really talked about this in the previous project, so it's a bit of a level up that we're doing here. If you're finding this concept a little bit difficult, know that that's completely normal. And what's really happening here is architecture is a part of the computer's underlying hardware setup. Okay, particularly it's about how your computer's hardware can process the software instructions. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, I thought the whole point of containers is that I can just drop my container in any kind of computer and it's gonna run. Okay, it's gonna this application is just gonna run magically for whoever's using it. But what really happens is while your container can bundle all the components of an application, so it can package up all the software parts of your application, it can't exactly control the hardware that's going to be running your container. And what that means is you have two different kinds of predominant architectures for devices today. So you have AMD 64, which covers most computers, but then there's also ARM 64, which has been introduced recently. And it's really predominant for anyone that uses like Apple Silicon Macs, for example. And it basically means that you have a different kind of processor, a hardware inside the computer. And if you have a different architecture, containers designed for just one type of architecture can't work on another unless it's designed to support both. So what that means for you and your buddy is it means if you have an Apple Silicon a Mac using Apple Silicon, for example, and you build a container image, and you give that container image to someone else that's using another kind of computer, that's using like Windows or Linux or an EC2 instance, they're probably going to run into trouble there, because they're like, it looks like there's an architecture issue, looks like there's a bit of a mismatch, and that's because you've done a great job of bundling up everything that the container or the app needs in terms of the software, in terms of the operating system. But when there's a hardware issue, that's really something that the container can't really control. Okay, and that's the entire reason why we're using a more complicated build X kind of command to build our container image today.
That's super interesting. So it's like packaging up all your software, and that's what we've done now, but then now we're kind of future-proofing it so that no matter what hardware we're sending it to, it'll work on that hardware.
That's exactly it.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
exactly
awesome.
it. So there are actually more than 2 types of architectures out there, but it's more that AMD 64 and ARM 64 are the predominant ones. So like user devices, like the computers we use, will be using these kinds of architecture. But if you're using like really, really technical, like kind of servers, it's probably a different architecture there.
Nice, and that's super interesting.
Nice. Okay, so your terminal should show you some status updates from Docker on how it's building that container image. And if you see any error messages in the terminal, it means that maybe you don't have your Docker daemon running. And what that means is maybe Docker isn't actually open on your computer right now. So if you're seeing any error messages about how it can't run your command, just make sure you actually have Docker desktop open on your computer first. How are you going, Maximus? Any issues there?
No issues.
No
issues. We've got the same thing right now.
We've got the same thing. No, that's great. That's great. All right. Thank you so much to Erwin for also adding a few thoughts in the chat. Erwin says AMD equals non-RISC based CPU. ARM is RISC based CPU. Wow, that is very cool. I wish I could understand this even more, Erwin. Would you mind sharing what that means? Like RISC based CPU or CISC based CPU? This is some pretty interesting terminology coming through. So Erwin also gives Erwin a few kudos, saying that it's a nice way to explain it. That's pretty cool. All right. So once the image is complete, I should mention, if you are seeing it all running correctly, what that should look like is on your screen. You should see like the terminal giving you a lot of like responses here, and then at the end, you should be able to see view build details like this. Okay, so shall we just double check that we've actually built this image? How we can double check is by going into Docker Desktop. So if you don't know how to find it, you can usually find the Docker icon and then clicking go to the dashboard, for example, and you can open this up, and you should be able to click on builds, and you'll be able to see that I've built something over here. Okay, just 5 minutes ago, the name is Docker ECR because that's the the name of the project or the name of the folder that we've created, and it just tells us it's completed. The build has been completed as well. Do you see that for you too, Maximus?
I do see that. However, on my terminal, I don't see all of the images where it gives like a summary at the end. It ends with no output specified with Docker container driver.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Wait, let me change the screen so we can actually see what's happening on your end. Okay, can you show that to us again?
Yes, this is what I see on my screen. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I think I can see it. Wait, let's see if I can move this around as well so everyone can see. No output specified with Docker container driver. Build result will only remain in the build cache. To push result image into registry, use push, etc. Oh, cool. We actually have the same thing
Nice.
in our terminal. So
And then if we go
to
Docker,
Docker.
I have this, yeah.
Okay, cool. What happens when you click on builds from the side?
If I click on builds, then I get
Docker
this here.
ECR. That's looking really
Awesome.
good. Guys, we should give him a round of applause that he hasn't actually gotten lost yet. I'm so incredibly surprised that he's made it. Just kidding.
Yeah, Matt was actually hoping that I would crumble and fail in this live because this is the first time I've used Docker.
But he's doing well, I have to admit.
Thank you so much, Nat.
All right. So I think we can move on to the next step. All right. Step 2 is actually to log into AWS with an IAM user. Now, if you don't have an IAM user, you're actually, no, I should start with this. If you have been watching our YouTube lives, if you have been following Next Week projects, you probably would have heard us just like toot the horn about please use an IAM user. Shall we? Sorry, Joe says what a hater Nat in the chat, and that
Yeah,
took
I
me by
completely
surprise.
agree with Joe. Joe is my guy.
Maximus, can you let us know why do we find IAM users extremely important?
Well, we want to use IAM users so that we don't give, let's say, someone like me, all of the access and permissions to access the entire server. Because I think if I had the permission to access everything, Nextwork, the website right now, would be down. It would not be running right now. And that would probably be by mistake, but Nat has thankfully shown us how to create an IAM user, which is like the first step in the guide. So you can give yourself the right permissions and give other people the right permissions so that they don't break the whole website.
Very nice. And I think that is just a great use case for having users in an account. And you're going to see as well in a second that users can be used for more than just humans like getting access to AWS. You'll see that in just a second. It's quite exciting. So you need to log in with into AWS with an IAM user. Also, even if you're just like the only sole owner, sole user of your account, because IAM users help to have this like layer that's separate from your root user. You can think of your root user as this very, very precious thing because it is kind of like the starting point of your AWS account. It contains all of your financial details, it has ultimate control over everything. So anyone that has access to that root user can genuinely do some great impact, or in other words, great damage as well to your AWS account. So you almost want to always be operating with an IAM user, even if you're the only person using your account. Just give yourself that layer of separation as well, to protect your account from anything that can happen when you do things that could expose your account, for example, into the public internet. All right, so we are already logged into our AWS accounts as an IAM user. It's super, super simple if you already have your admin user set up, and the instructions for that are also in this guide. But given that this is something that we have been doing in all of our projects, we will be skipping this step. And if you don't know how to create an IAM user, the steps for that are also right here. And you can also tune into a specific video that we have for it, which is in the description box as well. Cool. With that done, all right, we're going to do a sneaky check for step 2 here. We can now arrive at step 3, which is setting up ECR. Okay, so once you're all logged into your AWS Management Console, you can now think about using ECR. Since you've built your container image in step 1, we're now going to create a place to store what you've built. We'll be using Amazon ECR, which is like a storage space for container images in the cloud. By using ECR, you'll also make sure that your other player, so player B in my case is Maximus, you'll make sure that the other player and also anyone else that might ever use your container image in the future will always get the latest version of it. So you don't have to manually send them every single time you've updated your image to be like, hey Maximus, here's my latest image. Hey Maximus, here's my latest image. 2 days later, you make an update. Hey Maximus, here's my latest image. You can imagine how tedious it's going to be if sending container images to people is just a manual process. Luckily, with the cloud, you can just update the cloud and say, hey, this is the latest Docker container image that I have, and anyone that has access to it can just pull that latest image to wherever they are in the world. Okay, so that is the reason why ECR is so powerful for us. And if you've done any other project that's similar, for example, our GitHub project is one where you can put your source code in the cloud, and so that you can manage versions, and anyone can also just pull down your code to anywhere, you're going to realize that that is just a huge advantage of having cloud storage in general. It's so that one, you can manage versions in a central place, and two, people can also just always get the latest version of something or always get something from the cloud in a very, very efficient way. Okay. Cool. And yeah, a big shout out to Erwin in the chat for going out and explaining to us what was CISC and RISC, which you were mentioning earlier. This is really, really interesting. Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's an awesome explanation, Owen.
Shout out to Ivan as well for saying thanks, Erwin, for that explanation. Okay, so what are you going to do in this step and why? Shall we switch to Maximus's computer as he talks through what we're doing today? Cool. We're switched to you now, Maximus.
Awesome. So in this step here, I will create a space in Amazon ECR to store our container image because we want, let's say based on Nat's explanation, we want an easy way for other members or other players in the project to be able to access the latest version of our container image.
Oh, I think he actually understood that, guys.
Don't sound so surprised.
That's
Thanks,
crazy.
guys. Okay, so now we can go into part 2, and this is check in with your buddy. Has your buddy worked with Amazon ECR before? If yes, how would they explain Amazon ECR to someone else? If no, what's their guess on why people use ECR? I'm guessing Nat has possibly used ECR before because she did write this project, and she did just explain it. I mean, originally when you were talking about it, the first thing that popped up to me was the GitHub project and being able to push and pull stuff, and then also just very simply Google Docs and being able to type in Google Docs and everyone else can see the latest version of your project.
Ooh, very, very cool. Well, in that case, I know exactly what to write then. So I'm gonna write for Maximus. Yeah, Arvin says my guy's a quick learner.
Thanks, Arvin. I appreciate
It's so
that.
true. And Joe says, Dad, I was joking, but Nat is for real a hater. Joe, if you keep
I'm
this-
so glad that everyone is seeing this now.
No.
Nat has got this whole office fooled. You know, she's got this really sweet teacher thing going on, but behind the scenes, guys, it's really tough. It is really tough. I'm glad. I'm glad that everyone's seeing it now.
Joe, if you keep this up, I'm gonna have to stop reading out your comments. No, I'm joking. And B-Resh says, hi. Babs is giving us a thumbs up. And we also have Aman saying, I need to know what keyboard is that.
This keyboard? This keyboard is a Keychron, I want to say K2. Is it super clicky and loud? I'm very sorry if it is, but it glows and it sounds nice in person. And I will just finish off this answer. So for Nat, she did this project, so she does know what Amazon ECR is, and the way that she explained it is a way for the latest container image to be accessible by other players / members who are trying to gain access. Awesome. Then we can hit done, and we can move on to the next step.
Very nice. Very, very cool. And as someone that works beside you, I can attest that the keyboard does sound extremely loud.
Oh, okay.
It does have a very, very prominent sound, everyone.
That's great to know. Nat also has noise cancelling headphones, so that's not really an issue.
Everyone says, oh, K2, probably with a blue switch.
I think so. I think it was a brown switch. So it might not be K2.
It might not be. Okay then. That's fun. Okay, so shall we now head into the AWS console together? Oh my goodness, we're finally heading into the AWS console. It sounds like it's been a while, hasn't it? But let's jump into the AWS console. Ooh. Looks like it might need to do a manual switch like this. Okay, and we're going to head into our star service of today, which is called Elastic Container Registry. So you just have to search up Elastic Container Registry like this. Okay. Oh, and make sure you're not selecting Elastic Container Service. My goodness, they look so similar. We just want to click the one that says Registry. And yeah, we have talked about what is ECR. It is a fully managed container registry. And we've also talked about how it can really help us with managing versions and also making sure that everyone always has the latest image of your work. Now, another thing we haven't mentioned yet is that using ECR and container registries also really helps with automating workflows. And this is where the world of all of these different, I guess, aspects of cloud really converges, because we're doing a compute project. But really, container registries are so involved in the world of CI/CD pipelines, because CI/CD pipelines can actually pull the latest container from your registry and automate the actual running of containers using that container image all the time. And I think that kind of crossover is going to be very, very exciting one day. Okay, so when you're here, you can see that I already have a container. I already have a repository set up. It's called Secret Mission, which you'll get access to, or which will release in the future. But really, what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a repository. Yeah? And then we're going to create a new repository. Notice that it's called private. Yeah, repositories by default, when you create them in Amazon ECR, are private, which means that only you get access to whatever you upload into your repository, and this becomes very important later on. Now, for your name, we're going to type in something nice and easy. We're just going to go for nixwork/cross-account Docker app. And for image tag mutability, we're going to use mutable. Okay, so image tag mutability sounds like such an interesting word. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, what does that even mean?
I was just thinking that.
Okay, cool. Well, image tag mutability means that it lets you push a new image with the same tag and overwrite the previous one. So think about it like this. In your repository, you have your image, and you can have tags to different versions of your image. What if I have a tag that says tag for Maximus? And now in the future, if I ever want to update the tag for Maximus, I can just say, oh, this image is called, this image I'm going to update. I'm going to tag it with Maximus. And now Maximus, when he wants to pull something, he can go say, hey, I want to pull Nat's image with the tag Maximus. And he now gets the specific version of this container image that I've uploaded that I tagged specifically for him. Now, the interesting thing is, if you say mutable tags, it means that automatically, when I push a new image and tag it with Maximus, it will override and pretty much delete the old image that had that Maximus tag attached to it. We're now going to replace it with this latest container image with the Maximus tag. But if we were to pick that other option that says immutable, what that means is a tag will always point to that same image. We can't override an old image by just saying, oh, I'm going to push this new one and make it the same tag, Maximus. Immutable literally means it's unchanging over time. It's unable to be changed. So once I tag something with Maximus, I can't tag anything else with Maximus, or that tag is always just going to point to that first image that I've attached it to, that first time.
So a mutable tag's kind of like when you save a file on your laptop, and then you go to save another file and you type the exact same name, and it says, do you want to replace this file with the new one? Is that kind of like what mutable tags is?
Dude, that's it.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's it. And then if it's mutable, it will let you replace.
It lets you replace it.
If it's immutable, it'll say, hey, you're using the exact same name, so we're not going to let you save it with that
Gotta
name.
change it. And I see Sherwin had a question. Please explain the difference between ECR and service.
Oh, I love that question. And yeah, absolutely. So you have ECR and ECS. Shall we go back into the AWS Management Console to talk through this? I think we should. Great question, Sherwin. I love it so much. And let's talk about that here. So you have something called ECR, called the registry. Okay, it's a fully managed Docker container registry, and it says share and deploy. Okay, it gets cut off here. but it really says share and deploy container software. Okay, so now you can remember registry means it's like storage. You're like storing and you're sharing and you're deploying your container software, and you're really you're deploying like Docker container images here. Now what happens when I type ECS is you have Elastic Container Service. It's a highly secure, reliable, scalable way to run containers. Ooh, can anyone spot that difference in the keyword here? We have Elastic Container Service saying a scalable way to run containers. Okay, and then we have ECR saying it's a container registry here, and it's here to deploy container software, which really, I just realized isn't very, very clear just from this little blurb. But think of ECS as your cloud service to run containers, and an ECR as your cloud service to store container images. Okay, now here's your difference: containers versus container images. If you remember from earlier in this project, we talked about how there is a very, very clear difference between a container image and the container itself. Do you remember what that difference is, Maximus? Any chance?
Yeah, so a container image is essentially like the template for what you're pushing to your container, and the container itself is all of the packaged goods, the dependencies, the library, the actual instance that's running your container image.
Oh, very cool. Nice work. Nice work. So when you have your container image, you have your template. And when you have your containers, these are the actual pieces of software that's running the application over here. So when would you use ECR? You're going to use ECR whenever you say, I've created a container image. I want to store it somewhere safe, or I want to store it where other people can pull down this template I've created. Great. Use ECR. And that's why we're using it today. We've built a container image. We want to store it. When are we going to use ECS? Oh, someone else has a container image. I want to run it. I want to create some containers and use that image and run containers with that image. That's when you can use ECS. Okay, so ECS is a really great service for actually running the container itself. ECR is a great service for storing those templates, storing those container images. We won't be using ECS today because it really is a bit more of a complicated service to use. There's a lot of steps involved, and we're just going to be focusing on ECR instead. Okay, wow. All of that to say, let's keep going with our setup for our ECR repository, and we're going to go into the encryption settings next. The default is fine. Okay, it really is encryption is just really here to protect your container images, and the default way to do it is perfect. Let's click create. And off we go. Your new repository is born. Okay? And it's looking fire. It's looking really, really good. Okay? So you can click into that repository name to open up your page for the repository. Okay? So there's this. And you can also go back here if you like and take a screenshot of your newly created ECR repository. Shall we sneakily change our view to Maximus to see how he's going to do this?
I'm gonna take another screenshot.
I'm going to take another screenshot then, because this is exciting for me. This is the first private repository that I built. All right, so I'm going to take a screenshot here, and then I'm going to drag it into here.
Nice.
And you can see now it's loaded, and then we can go on to the next stages here.
Wow, very good. Very, very well done.
So in this case here, I can fill this out. ECR stands for, if we look in our console,
Okay.
we can see Elastic Container Registry. Container Registry. It is important because, and if I'm not mistaken here now, it's important because it's a service that's used for our container images.
Yes.
A service used for the sharing and deployment of our container images.
I love it. Very good work. Yeah. And a big shout out to Amber in the chat. for saying, sounds like ECR is for storage, ECS is for running. Yeah. We have Arvin saying ECR is like an index page and ECS is a place where we can run each individual item. Oh, very cool. We also have Jerome saying ECR stores and manages Docker container images, while ECS runs those containers. Everyone in the
That's
chat
awesome.
is like,
Everyone is cooking in the chat.
cooking. And we also have Erwin saying Max is a natural.
Oh, thank you.
Maximus.
Thank you very much.
You're stealing my job here.
Oh no.
I'm joking. Alright, so we're gonna check in with our buddy next.
Ooh, this is an interesting question here, Nat. It says, check in with your buddy. What is your project buddy's repository URI?
Yo.
Now, interesting. If I'm being honest, have no clue what that means. So I might have to get Nat's help on this.
Well, we're gonna look at. Wait, stay on your page. You actually have the URI right in front of you.
Oh, would you look at that? It says URI right here. I do know what a URI is.
Yeah.
But we're looking for our project buddy's URI. Is that not correct, Nat?
That is correct. So you're gonna have to somehow get my URI. How do we think we can share that?
Well, originally the first thought I had is WhatsApp. But I don't know if that's in the project guide for this one here. So,
I was gonna say that we can throw our URIs in the chat, and then we can grab it from the chat.
Okay, so it's pretty similar to WhatsApp then. Okay, nice.
Can you access the chat, the YouTube chat?
I can indeed.
Well, I'm gonna throw my URI in the chat room as well.
Oh my gosh, are we about to get hacked?
Look.
Is Erwin gonna steal our URI?
Look, Erwin, have mercy on us. The chat is truly the only place where we can both like share something right now.
That is true.
So I'm gonna throw mine in the chat.
I've sent mine.
I've sent mine as well.
Okay, I think yours is the second one.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yours is the first one.
So now I can put in Nat's URI into this box here, and then hit done.
That looks good. That looks really good. I'm gonna hit done on mine as well. All right, we're still following Maximus's screen.
Awesome.
And it says to view your push commands. Shall we just stay on your screen for a second?
Yeah, we
Maximus?
can
I think
stick
you're
in
doing a
here.
great job here.
So it says click into your repository, so we can click in here, and then it says to click view push commands. So what is a push command? A push command in Amazon ECR is used to upload your Docker container images to an ECR repository. So if I'm not mistaken, that it's kind of like this ECR is used to upload your Docker container images to your ECR repository. Oh, so it's kind of like pushing changes through GitHub.
Yeah,
Essentially.
actually, yeah,
Okay,
it is. So what's really happening here is that push command window gives you a set of instructions for like, hey, we know that when you have ECR, what you really want to do is you want to push some container images you've built in your local computer, and you want to send that to the cloud, into your ECR repository, right? Because you have your container image sitting in your local computer. You now have your repository that's also in the cloud. How do you connect the two? How do you push it up? These commands are things that you can run in your local computer's terminal to push them up. So essentially by running these commands, 1, 2, 3, 4, in your local terminal, you're kind of like building that bridge between your container image to your ECR repository.
Okay.
So
So what we're doing here is we're copying these into our local terminal. So I've copied over the first one. I've hit run, and it says command not found AWS.
whoa, what's happening here? So let's
If we
switch
head back to the guide,
yeah, of course we can head back to the guide. Let's keep going on your screen.
we can say head back into your local terminal and run your first push command, which I did, and then I saw this exact thing. She is in my mind. She's in my laptop. She knows that I could not find the command AWS. Okay, so what do we do? What does this response in the terminal mean? This message means that your terminal doesn't understand AWS commands yet when you ran the push command. It's like you were talking to the terminal in a language it doesn't know yet. Okay, so I was speaking English, but it only understands Spanish. To fix this, we need to install the AWS CLI so your terminal can recognize and run those commands.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what's really happening here is when you run an AWS command, you're kind of speaking a specific language, okay? And terminals, your local computer, it doesn't know how to understand AWS commands naturally. You're going to need to install something called AWS CLI. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to quickly teach you how to understand this language, quickly teach you how to understand these commands, so that when the next time you run an AWS command, it can actually understand and process what you're doing. Okay, so we are going to switch back to my screen for a second. So I'm going to steal everyone's attention back to me. That's okay.
Nice.
And let us talk about how, I think I'm in the right
Just
place.
below.
Just below. Thank you so much. So check in with your buddy. What is the output that your buddy sees in their terminal? Do they have AWS CLI installed? Well, we were just seeing Maximus' absolute disaster
Oh wow.
that happened in his terminal.
That's a word that you could have not probably used there.
Well, we can say the output that our buddy, dear Maximus, saw in their terminal was AWS command not found. Maximus also confirmed with us that he does not have AWS CLI installed. I love writing "not" in capitals. It's just so dramatic. Do you know? Isn't it just so dramatic?
Yeah, it's so dramatic now.
AWS CLI installed. Okay, I'm gonna select on. Okay, so we're gonna set up the AWS CLI now. Let's recap, okay? It has been a bit of a journey. We're in step 4 now. And what's happened so far is as whatever player you are, player A, player B, your game plan for today is to build your own container image, which we've done, tick. Then we want to push it to Amazon ECR and then deploy the other person's image. We've done the first thing. We're now trying to do the second thing. We're trying to push it to Amazon ECR, but we have a blocker. Our terminal can't speak AWS. So we need to let it speak AWS first before we can actually push it to Amazon ECR. In this step, we're actually going to be looking at Maximus's screen more than mine because Maximus doesn't have AWS CLI installed. I actually have AWS CLI installed, but I'd like for us to see what it's like to install AWS CLI together. And really, the goal here, don't forget, is the whole reason why we're even setting up AWS CLI is so that we have the ability to push those container images into the cloud, into Amazon ECR. So that's the end goal here. Okay, we're trying to push our container image into ECR. We can't do that unless we have AWS CLI installed. Okay, and if you already have it installed, we have a checklist for you to run through, but we're not going to be going through that checklist because we'll be focusing on what it's like if you don't have AWS CLI installed. Quick show of hands, by the way, for everyone in the chat, who actually has AWS CLI installed and who doesn't. If you don't, say I don't. If you do, say I already do. I already do have AWS CLI installed. Okay, so in this step, we will learn how to install AWS CLI. Our end goal here is to run push commands from Amazon ECR that lets us upload, or really push, our container image into the cloud, okay? And that is the ECR repository. We can't do that until we have AWS CLI installed in our local terminals. In our terminal. I'll just write that like this. Okay, and we have a quick show of hands happening right now. Okay, cool. Kemi says I do, Erwin does not. Oh, Erwin, are you gonna install AWS CLI with us? I hope you do. That'll be fun. All right, very cool. With that, let us switch
Swap
to
over.
the screen. and let us have a look at how he's going to install AWS CLI from scratch. Oh, we have Aman saying I do not.
Seems like a few people are also in the same boat as me. I use AWS Cloud Shell, says Owen. Ooh.
Yeah, AWS Cloud Shell is a way for you to just run commands in the browser.
I have seen that before. So in this step here, I'm going to install AWS CLI. I use Mac OS, but if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll find Windows or Linux. And I'm going to copy this code and run it in my terminal. So now, hopefully you can see that it's installing.
Yeah, can you press that Command Plus or something on your keyboard so we can really see your terminal? Yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
That is better.
And it's going to require my password, which I actually just changed before this, and I think I've got it now. I changed it so that Nat could access my laptop, but I will not share that on live YouTube because then I will get hacked, and then really it'll be a bad scenario for me. All of my TikToks are on this laptop, and that is worth a lot of money. Awesome. So as that's installing, I'm assuming we can scroll down a little bit now.
Absolutely, you can.
We've talked about what is AWS CLI, and then once you've installed AWS CLI, open your terminal and run this. So we're going to be running this AWS and -- version so that we can check what version we're running.
Cool. And yeah, as you enter that, you say that we have talked about what AWS CLI is. How would you define it?
AWS CLI is essentially a way for us to run our push commands for our container images to get to ECR. And it's kind of like a translator. At the moment, we're not speaking the right languages to be able to do that. And AWS CLI allows us to do that.
Oh, very, very good. And AWS CLI is not just helpful for pushing container images into ECR. It is a super, super powerful tool that lets you manage all different kinds of AWS services right from your terminal. So you know how all the time we're in the AWS management console clicking around, clicking on buttons to create an EC2 instance, clicking on buttons to create an S3 bucket, clicking on buttons to create a VPC. You're going to notice a lot of the time when you're clicking on buttons, you're manually typing out things, you're selecting things from drop-downs. It is one, time consuming, and two, you can make errors very, very easily. So AWS CLI is a very, very powerful tool because now you can just run a single text command to do the exact same things. And AWS CLI also becomes very, very powerful because once you know how to run those commands, you can create scripts as well. And those scripts can start to automate everything that you want to do. For example, with the AWS Management Console, but turn that into commands and let people do that for you. So you don't have to click around for it.
So it's essentially taking our whole AWS console, management console, and taking it into our terminal. So we can run any type of code in the command line interface, and then it's going to run it for us.
Yeah, it's a very, very good way to think about it. There is always a benefit to having the management console. For example, if you ever want to see a graph,
probably not going to see it here.
Yeah. So there are always benefits to having the management console, but the terminal is a super, super cool way to do it once you're comfortable with running terminal commands.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool. So I can see here that our AWS version is here in the bottom, AWS CLI 2.18.13, which we can go back to the guide, and it seems to be the right one, which is awesome. I love when it matches up. So you should see a version number for AWS CLI, which confirms you've installed it perfectly. I mean, if you don't see that, then don't worry. There's always some other step that you can go to or go to the community. But here's a little guide here. You can check out different installation packages for your OS or whatever software you're running on. Or if you're still stuck, you can go to the Nextware community, and there are legends in the community who will definitely answer you.
Yeah, big shout out to everyone in the chat as well for always helping each other out. Like, when someone has a question, someone else in the chat will respond, and I just think that's such a cool representation of what the Nextware community is about too. Thank you.
And now we're onto this part here. Discuss with your buddy. And that is my buddy sitting right there. Do you think you can run your first push command in Amazon ECR now? Why or why not?
Yeah. Wow.
I think this is going to stump Nat, personally.
What did you just say?
Nothing. Continue, Nat.
Well, so can we run our first push command in Amazon ECR now? We did just now say that one thing that's really stopping us from just running those push commands is the fact that we didn't have AWS CLI. We've just installed it. So by that kind of logic, surely we can actually run that command now. But I guess we can only see that in practice. We can only give it a shot and see what happens in the terminal. All right, so I'm gonna also type down Maximus's thoughts. What do you think?
Well, I also personally thought that we would be able to run it because we have installed AWS CLI now. But judging by the sounds of Nat's voice and the fact that I can see the project guide, I'm guessing we're going to get an error, which maybe ruin the suspense a little bit, but I will go ahead and follow the guide. So Nat was saying, Nat believes that we should technically be able to push our command. However, there may be something else that we need to do.
Amber also says in the chat, Maximus is crushing it in the terminal.
Thank you, Amber.
Nice
I
work.
appreciate that.
Nice work.
So it's saying head back into your ECR console, copy the first command in your ECR push window, command window, and paste it in your terminal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head into our console here. I'm going to copy this, number one. Then I'm going to go back to the terminal and paste it in here. So you can see it there at the bottom of your screen. And I'm going to hit enter. So now you can see, I thought it was going to work, but clearly it hasn't. It says, error cannot perform an interactive login from a non-TTY device.
Yeah, I feel like I have to say, heads up, I think that kind of error message is a little bit not informative. Okay? I'd rather we think about that first line.
Oh,
That first line, what does it say?
well, if we look back at our terminal here, it says, an error occurred, unrecognized client exception, when calling the get authorization token operation.
Yeah, stop there. Stop there. The security token included in the request is invalid. Okay, so what is the key? Is there a keyword that's standing out to you here? Do you kind of get a vibe of why we could be blocked out?
I'm guessing it's something to do with the authorization token and us not having the right security token in order to get access.
Whoa, that's a really good guess.
Thank
That's
you.
a really good
Thanks,
guess. Okay. Well, don't forget, we're still in the step of even setting up AWS CLI in the first place. Okay, so your second hint is the fact that we haven't technically finished setting up AWS CLI yet. Would you like to take us back to the project guide and we'll see how we can sort ourselves out?
Yeah, so what we've just seen here is this error, which we just talked about. And then we also just talked about why did we see this error. This is, dang, looks like you still can't complete that first push command yet. This error typically points to an authentication issue when trying to push a Docker image to Amazon ECR.
Yeah.
In our case, AWS is telling your terminal that you don't have the right AWS credentials to run this command. Okay, awesome. But I own this ECR repository. How could I not have the right credentials?
Is that what you were thinking?
I was genuinely thinking that. I was like, I own it. It says it's private. That is 100% true. You created the ECR repository using the AWS Management Console. We are interacting with AWS CLI now. The Management Console doesn't have a way to automatically pass your credentials to CLI. So think of it as having to log into your AWS again. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like we've already logged into our AWS console over here, but when we've installed AWS CLI, we haven't put in our password, we haven't logged in on the terminal, so we're not going to get access. Which is kind of a good thing. I wouldn't really want someone to be able to copy my AWS console that easily.
Yeah, it would be intense if anyone could be able to just get access to your ECR repository just by running that command.
Exactly.
So the fact that the CLI is also stopping us by saying, hey, I don't think you have the right credentials for this, is a great thing. What we're going to need to do now to finish setting up AWS CLI is to actually log in to AWS through the terminal. So you almost are logged into AWS like in the terminal again, and then run that command one more time, and it's going to be like, oh, sorry, I didn't know you were actually Maximus. Yeah, of course you have access to your own repository, and then it's going to let you in. So yeah.
Okay, so we're going to run this AWS configure in our terminal then. So we go right here, copy that over, and then paste it in our terminal. It's going to ask for our AWS access key ID. So naturally, we probably want to go back to our terminal here, and we can see this next pop-up. What is an access key? Great question. One that I was thinking just now. Think of an access key as a set of credentials specifically made for scripts and terminal programs. It's like the AWS CLI's way of logging in. It's almost kind of like a username, I assume.
Yeah, it is a lot like a username.
Even though you use your management console login on your browser, the CLI doesn't know about that. It needs its own way to authenticate you, and accepting an access key is one of the fastest ways to do it. Okay, so next in the guide, we're going to take a screenshot of our terminal showing AWS CLI asking for credentials.
Nice.
So I'm going to go back over to my terminal here.
And while he's taking that screenshot, a big shout out to everyone in the chat. We have Joe saying, great to see that there are people who are nice to Maximus. I think he's referring to the fact that Amber is being so encouraging to Maximus right now, saying that he's crushing it in the terminal. We also have Praneeth saying,
good to see you in here, Praneeth.
Yeah, Praneeth's here. It's so cool. Praneeth, hello. Maximus and Nat are rocking on YouTube Live. Amber saying, so cool. Awesome to see you here, Praneeth. Praneeth saying, yeah. So cool to see you here, Praneeth. So cool to see you here, Praneeth. I just realized I kind of said that a bit too quickly. And yeah, I think a big shout out to Praneeth, by the way, in the community, because if you're in the community, you would definitely see Praneeth around. He's absolutely a Windows pro, and he's absolutely someone that loves troubleshooting as well. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Your presence is awesome. Cool, Maximus. How are we going?
So now we can fill in this box here, which is asking, start your answer with AWS CLI is. And to me, AWS CLI is a way to access the AWS console in your terminal.
Ooh, kind of close.
Is that close?
I feel like the way that you're saying AWS console is where it's a little bit tricky, because you can think of the AWS CLI and the AWS console as two separate interfaces or two separate ways to get access to your AWS services or your AWS resources. The console is simply another interface or another way to get to where you really want to be.
So it's actually just another way of finding things in your AWS console. So it's about actually accessing the AWS services in your terminal.
Yeah.
The CLI asked for my credentials because, and thank goodness for Grammarly.
This video is not sponsored.
It's not sponsored by Grammarly, but who knows in the future. The CLI asked for my credentials because we did not have access. Have access to our login credentials. And it requires our access key in order to gain access. There's probably a better way to write that. How would you describe it, Nat?
Yeah, so what I would really say here is the CLI asked for our credentials because it just doesn't know who we are yet. And it just wants to log you into the right account.
Okay, so it's actually about, it doesn't know who we are and wants the right access key to log us into the right account.
Perfect. And a big shout out to Mabwe in the chat. And Mabwe
Oh, wow.
Leroy is in the code. I'm like freaking out right now.
Mabwe is actually one of our top project completers
That's
in the
right.
world.
In the world.
In the world. So
In
it's
the
awesome to
entire
see you
world.
in here, Mabwe.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We're such big fans of you. To know that you're watching this live right now is so cool to us. So
We
thank you
are
so much.
indeed.
Erwin also says you're tagging Grammarly. Look at what you've done. I'm just joking. All right, we'll keep going. All right, how are you feeling? Do you want to keep going with this part, or would you like me to take over? Are you feeling
Yeah,
comfortable?
we can keep going.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
friendly reminder, it might feel a long road to push your container image to ECR, but you and player A have got this. So me and Nat have got this, and we're almost here. So AWS CLI is also an incredibly powerful tool to learn. Many engineers prefer it over the management console. Kind of what Nat was saying before, I'm sure there's a lot of efficiencies when you're using it. And even though it's about accessing the different services, and both would have their pros and cons, I think what Nat was saying was that a lot of people would prefer being in the terminal. Cool. So next, we're actually going to create an IAM user. What? Why are we creating a new user? I'm already using an IAM admin user. That's a really tough one to say. That is a really tough one
Say it
to
again.
say.
Say it again.
IAM user.
Great.
Logging into the AWS CLI works by creating an IAM user first and then passing that user's credentials in the terminal. And I just saw Mabwe saying, "Thank you so much. This is awesome." Even if you already have an IAM admin user, we're setting up a brand new user so we can restrict its permissions to what you need for this project. Even if an attacker gets access to your key, the damage is limited, which keeps your AWS account more secure. That makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's honestly something to emphasize. When you're creating an access key, which we're about to do because you need an access key to log into AWS over the CLI in your terminal, it's actually gonna that the console is gonna make you feel like you're doing something that's huge, because having an access key is something that when people have access to, when an attacker gets access to your access key, they can literally just log in or get access to your AWS account and do all sorts of things. So the reason why we're creating an IAM user now is we're gonna want to create a user with so little permissions that even if someone gets access to your access key, they're not gonna have permissions to do much in the first place. Okay, so the damage is very, very much limited. And another great thing to know is that this is absolutely best practice when it comes to trying to get access to AWS, over the terminal. So please keep this in mind. Please know that especially when you're using the AWS CLI, you want to limit your permissions as much as you can, because the access key is something that's even more vulnerable, really, than trying to have this password username set up over in the console. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Maximus. I'll bring it
No
back to
worries.
you.
Cool. So in the AWS console, we can head to our IAM console. I'll duplicate this window because I'm assuming we'll need it later. And I can go in here and type in IAM.
Nice, nice.
Now we're in here. Then I can select users from the left-hand side bar, create a user, and in here we're going to enter ECR access for the username. And then when we scroll down, we can skip the checkbox for providing the user access to the management console. We'll only use the terminal, which Nat just talked about. And then we'll select next. So once we're in here, we're going to click this attach policies directly. And we're going to search for Amazon EC2 Container Registry Full Access. Now that is a handful, but thank goodness we can just copy it into here. If not, you can literally just type it out and search it. And we're going to click this checkbox. Cool. What does this policy do? This policy gives the user full access to ECR, which would definitely let you push your container image to your repository. Well, that's what we want to do, right? We want to push our container image to the repository. So it sounds pretty good. Then we can click next. And in the final page, review page, click create user.
That's it. That's all you gotta do.
That's it. And it went green, so green is good. Green is good.
What do we do next?
Next, we can click in here and click create access key. So we want to click into our user here,
Yep.
ECR access.
Yup.
And then if we go just here, it's slightly different. It looks slightly different on my screen, but create access key, we can click that here.
Can you zoom in a little bit for us, man?
Sure, no problem.
Thanks.
Hopefully that's better.
That's a lot better. Thank you.
Now we can select command line interface, so CLI. That's the first one here. And as we keep scrolling down, whoa, there is a lot of options. What do these mean? So these options help AWS know how you use your access key. For example, local code is for scripts running on your machine, and application on AWS is for services like EC2 or Lambda wanting to access other AWS resources. Each choice tailors the permissions that are possible based on your use case. Okay.
So there are so many different reasons for creating access keys. It's not just about logging into AWS through the CLI. There's so many different reasons why people will be creating access keys. So for example, if I am creating an application and my application somehow will need access to EC2 or somehow need access to Lambda, how am I going to say, hey, app, log into AWS? That's such a weird thing to ask your app to do. An app can't really have hands and just log into the console and do things on the console. So that's another reason why access keys are so helpful. Because now you can actually just pull that into application code and just say, here are credentials that you can use to log into AWS. Again, this is the reason why you need to be very careful when you're setting up your access keys. Because imagine if someone somehow pulled your application code and got access to your AWS account through the credentials you put in there. Now all of a sudden they can have access to your AWS account, do random things, pull like some great bills on your account and just go. And that's the reason why you really want to make sure, one, access keys are stored in a safe place, and two, you are limiting the permissions that your user can even have in the first place. Cool.
Okay, awesome. So then we want to scroll down to the bottom and check the acknowledgement checkbox at the bottom of the page. This one right here. Okay, and why is there an acknowledgement checkbox? AWS usually recommends using other services called IAM Identity Center instead of access keys for managing programmatic access, e.g. access over the terminal, because it's newer and more secure. This is especially true for larger teams where you might need to manage CLI access for multiple people. Cool? That makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. So the reason why I said just now as well, like when you create an access key, they're going to make it sound like you're doing this huge thing. And it's also because they've released this new service and they kind of want to recommend us to use it. The IAM Identity Center is very, very helpful if you have multiple users that you want to do this at scale for. But for us, let's do the quick and easy route. Let's just create an access key directly.
Cool. So that's pretty much why we're creating it in here rather than creating it in IAM Identity, because it's a lot quicker.
So much quicker.
Awesome. So we can select next. And then for the description, we can enter a short description like this. So in here, we have created to get a programmatic access to ECR using this user for the Nextwork project on cross-account deployment.
That's right.
Whoa. So now we can click create access key. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And it worked. Green is good.
It did work. We're going to pause here. Just make sure you're pausing on the screen because you're looking at something very important right now.
We are.
Can you tell us what you're seeing?
My secret access key is here, which I probably shouldn't show to everyone live.
Yeah.
This is, as Nat said, you want to store this somewhere very safe so that people can't get access to your access key and your AWS account.
Yeah, great question from Sahed as well in the chat saying, nowadays companies just use SSO, right? That's very, very true.
Mhm.
And that's why IAM Identity Center is so helpful. It connects to SSO as well. So companies that already have an existing like SSO for how people can sign on to their company resources can also get access to AWS through that too. Yeah, Identity Center is really, really good for larger teams. So yes, Sahed, nowadays companies would use Identity Center to manage this at scale. Cool.
Well, now what we can do is, since we've created our access key, we can actually download our CSV file. And I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but I am going
Yes,
to
we can
save
see
it.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. Just checking that it doesn't need to be called anything. And if you've left the page, then again, head back to the Nextweek community. There's going to be someone awesome like Praneeth or Sahid or Aman, anyone in the chat right now that would probably answer your question right away, which is super awesome. Nice. So we've downloaded our CSV file. I have that secure. My secret access key is secure now.
Very good.
And we can finally finish off this last little box here. Just saying, how did you set up your new IAM user? So start your answer to enable CLI access. I set up a new IAM user with the permission. I might need some help here, Nat. So the permissions that we set up here.
Yes. You have put it through as a policy.
This right here.
That's right. You can
We used Amazon EC2 Container Registry full access.
Yeah, bit of a mouthful, eh? Policy names are like that. Honestly, policy names are huge.
With the permission policy. I've actually gone ahead and copy pasted the policy name in here because for me, I like to know exactly what I put in. And I also set up an access key for this user, which means, and this means, Nat, that I can get access with my secret access key.
That's
Wow.
right. Yeah, so what does it actually mean that you set up an access key for this user? It means that you can now log into AWS as this user with this container registry access into like CLI.
In the terminal.
Yeah, that's right, in the terminal. So what's going to happen here is when you log into the terminal, you're not really logging in as the IAM user that you've been using in the console. Right? The login that you're using is you're now using this ECR access user that you've just created with limited permissions, and you're using the access key, which is kind of like your username and password for the CLI to understand.
So this means I can log in my terminal with my new IAM user, which has a different set of permissions. Oh, I don't have characters. So I might have to stop it at a new IAM user.
Yeah. Very, very good.
And then I can hit done.
You can hit done. Okay, final stretch for this step.
Nice. So lastly, we're going to configure the AWS CLI. So we're going to head back to our local terminal again. And this time you have credentials handy to access AWS CLI. Nice. If your previous terminal session has closed, run AWS Configure again. Thankfully, I don't think ours has, which is awesome. So now we can open up the ECR access keys CSV file from our downloads. So I'm going to open it up. And it's on a different screen here. I can copy that access code, and then I can paste it in here.
Nice. And then now it's going to ask for a secret access key. It's okay if you need to copy and paste it in a live, by the way, because by the end of this project, you'll be deleting the entire user as well.
I actually just realized, Nat, that I just posted my secret access code instead of my access code. So now would I just run AWS Configure again?
Good question. I love that you actually ran into this. I feel like this is going to be a common problem. So yeah, you can run AWS Configure again, but what's going to happen is when you run it like this, it's going to keep going. Do you know how to quit this by any chance in your terminal?
Command C?
Control
C?
Control C, yeah. Press Control C and you can start over again. Let's run AWS configure. Can you
Okay.
zoom in a little bit more for us, please?
Nice.
So much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I hit Control C there, so then I go back into the Docker ECR file, and then what I've done is typed in AWS configure again.
Nice.
Now I'm going to do the right thing and actually copy in my access key ID instead of my secret access key. And there you can go, there you see my access key ID, and now I'm going to copy in my secret access key. Oh, now it says default region name US West 2.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know exactly what to do here, so I'm going to go back to the guide. Enter your AWS region code, e.g. US West 2. You can find your region code by going back into your AWS Management Console and clicking the region drop-down next to your account name. So here's mine. Next to...
Ooh, you were literally there. Yeah. Where's your typical region?
Well, sometimes it defaults to US West Oregon.
Okay, interesting. Well, have a look at the guidance again. Find a region that you used.
Your region might say global right now if your console has AWS IAM open. That's because AWS IAM is a global service. Well, that does make sense. The roles and users you create are available across all AWS regions, but you will need to pick a specific region to work with ECR. Find a region that you used to set up your ECR repository. You can head back to your ECR console and check the region drop-down again if you're not sure.
Whoa. Slow down a little. Slow down a little when you're reading these. I think one thing that's very important to know... It's okay. He's getting excited. He's getting excited over here, guys. But one thing to really understand here is, one, if you see that your region says global, don't panic. Nothing to worry about. All you gotta do is click on that word global and look at that drop down, and you're gonna see that there's still a huge list of regions that you can pick from. Any of those is not gonna click, when you click on them, because AWS IAM is a global service. It's gonna lock the region selection to just global. Now what's gonna happen is when Maximus switched tabs to his ECR tab, he is actually in a region after all. There is a region that he's in when he created that repository. And what was that region?
US West 2.
US West 2, the classic region to be in.
West Oregon.
So now you can actually configure the region that you're in.
So I can go back to my terminal now and type in US West 2.
Perfect.
And then hit enter.
Oh, very good.
Okay, default output format. You can leave the output format blank and press enter on your keyboard. The default format for the terminal responses from your AWS commands is JSON, and that works great. Cool. So I can go back to my terminal, I can press enter, and then I'm done.
And then you've officially logged in to AWS in your terminal.
That is insane.
Yeah, you're all logged in.
The world is in terror right now because I am all powerful logged into my AWS CLI console now.
Terror! Is that what you think how we're gonna respond?
Yeah, exactly like that, Nat. Thank you.
See, there's a reason why I roast him. Every single thing he does just reminds me that there's a very, very valid reason. All right, we have one last question to answer in this step. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
Feeling good.
Let's keep it up.
Cool. So in this last part here, to pass my credentials to the AWS CLI, I ran the command, which was AWS configure, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is.
And I had to provide my access key ID, my secret access key ID,
secret access key,
my region that I set up my ECR in, and then I pressed enter. So that was what I had to provide.
That's a very good point. I'm glad that you've called out that the region was the one that you used ECR in.
Exactly. Yeah, Grammarly is actually getting a field day from this. Then we can go on to the next one and we can discuss with our buddy Nat, how comfortable does your buddy feel about using AWS commands instead of your management console?
Yeah, Well, for me, I think using AWS commands, again, something that you'll eventually feel more comfortable with, I would rate myself probably like a 7 out of 10.
A 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say a 7 out of 10.
Okay, I actually feel I don't feel too comfortable, but at the same time, I think it's a lot cooler. I feel like I'm in the terminal, I'm in the weeds of it all. So I'm gonna give myself a 5 out of 10.
A 5 out of 10. That's still pretty impressive. Maximus gives himself a 5 out of 10.
Commands instead of the.
A big shout out to Pooven, by the way, for saying happy to join this session. Thank you so much, Pooven. We're equally happy and we're equally excited for you to try and give this a go. All right,
We're
so
gonna hit done.
if it's all right, Maximus, yeah, we're gonna hit done, and I'm gonna take
Pass
over
it
for a
over
little
that.
bit.
Nice.
Thank you so much. Let us talk about this next step, okay? Where you're actually gonna push your Docker image to the cloud. Okay, let's recap again. We've built the container image. We've set up something in the cloud called ECR. We've set up a repository there, which means our repository is now ready to accept your container image. But we haven't actually pushed our container image into the repository yet, because to push that container image into the repository, we need to be able to run AWS commands. Okay, and AWS commands requires the CLI in your terminal. So we said, all right, I guess we'll go the long way route. We're gonna go set up AWS CLI in our terminal first. And now that we have, we're really ready to just push that Docker image into the cloud now. We've been unlocked, Maximus. So this is a really, really exciting step where we will, okay, let's answer this together. In this step, we will run push commands to push our Docker image into the ECR repository we've set up previously. Okay? And let's talk about this next part too. This next part also says, what were the 2 files you set up in your Docker ECR folder? It's a bit of a memory game. But back in step 1, we set up 2 files to build our container image. What were the 2 files?
Is that a Docker file and a index.html file?
Whoa, that's exactly it. So yeah, one is a Docker file and index.html. These 2 files helped us build a container image using Docker. Nice. Okay, so we're going to head back into the ECR console now, and we're going to go back to viewing those push commands that we couldn't run earlier. Okay, so what that's going to look like is I'm actually going to switch tabs to you, Maximus, for you to give this a go. Is that cool?
Awesome. Cool. So we're going to go to this step here, authenticate Docker to ECR. So we're going to head back to our ECR console and select view push commands again. Cool. So we're going to copy the first command. It should look similar to this. Copy that. And then we're going to run this in our terminal, which we've tried before. So hopefully this time it works.
Does it work?
And I think it works. Login succeeded.
Oh
Look
my
at this.
gosh.
This is a big moment in human history right here. Now, what does this command do? This command, I just saw Malcolm joined. Malcolm, it's so good to have you in here. And it's okay that there's a time difference. We're so excited to have you in here. What does this command do? This command gives Docker access to your private Amazon ECR repository. So the one we created here. And AWS ECR get minus login minus password or dash gets a temporary password from AWS. And then Docker login and dash password dash stdin uses that temporary password to log Docker into your ECR registry.
Yeah, so what's really happening here is we're just going to ECR and saying, "Hi, do I have the ability to log in? Can I get access to ECR?" And ECR saying, "Yeah, you can come visit this service. You can come try get access to the images in this repository." So you don't actually have the images, or you don't really have access to the entire repository yet. What you've really done is you've just proven to ECR that your user can even have permissions to ECR in the first place. And of course, our user does. Literally, the only policy we've given to that user is ECR full access. Okay, so ECR has to be like, "Oh, I recognize you. You have full access to ECR. You can use the service."
Okay, awesome. So now we have full access to ECR. And the second prompt here, why authenticate Docker with ECR? Just like you need to log in to AWS to access services, Docker also needs permission to do anything in your AWS account. You'd want to give Docker access to your private ECR repository so that Docker can push container images there, which is the whole point of what we're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now that we have access to ECR ourselves, we're actually in this command also saying that we're going to, well, not really within this command right now, but later on, because we'll be running commands that actually push the image into ECR, those commands effectively give Docker the permission to access ECR too. So with ECR letting us into the repository, by extension, it's kind of giving the Docker in our local computer access to ECR too. Yeah, it's really interesting. It really treats Docker like a different person. And you're gonna notice that a lot of the time in the world of like computers or in the world of like services and stuff, it really just treats like different services like their users, like their people as well. And in this case, like Docker is almost like a different character that ECR also needs to grant access to.
Yeah, everyone needs permission to get access. That's what it seems like. Awesome. So we can fill in this box here. What are push commands in Amazon ECR?
Yeah. Can I take over for this?
Yeah,
one?
this might be an interesting one.
Yeah, cool. So push commands, are terminal commands that let us push resources into the cloud. Yeah? So that is a general term for a push command. And you're going to notice here, we haven't even mentioned ECR yet, and that's because push commands is such a general thing. Okay, it's not just ECR where you can find push commands. All different kinds of services can provide push commands too, if there needs to be some sort of link between your local resources and things in the cloud. So in our case, in this context, we're using Amazon ECR, which is giving us push commands to push our container images from our local computer into the cloud repositories we've set up in ECR. Yeah, so like that. What command did you actually use to authenticate Docker with your ECR repo? So this would have been the command that we ran just now. And I think what really is important here is we wrote AWS. Oh, actually, let's use the prompt starter. To authenticate Docker with my ECR repo, I use the command AWS ECR get login password. And, and I also used docker login -- username -- password to let Docker get access to ECR using my credentials. Okay, so I think I might have misspoke earlier actually when I said this command doesn't necessarily give Docker permissions. I think what I was really trying to say is that this command is kind of like in two parts here, because the first part of the command is saying that we need to get our own login and our own like password for ECR to show that we have permissions to use ECR. And then the second part of that command is actually you're passing those credentials to Docker, so Docker can actually get access itself. So it's a bit of a two-part command there. I hope that makes it a bit clearer. Cool. So we're going to click done. And then we'll move on to the next part. Now this is really important. You're going to see that in the build command or push command window, there's a second command that we are not running today. Okay, and why is that? The second command is about building the image, which we've actually already done back in step 2. We even used the more advanced build image command by using buildx, which again protects us from having our container image being used by a computer with a completely different architecture. We explained that back in step 2. So we don't need to build our command again. We don't need to build our image again, and we're going to skip that second command and move on to that third command straight away. Okay, so we're going to move on to that third command, and what that's going to look like is it's going to look like this. Okay, Docker tag. Whoa, interesting. So what this command is really trying to do is it's trying to tag the image that's already being built. Okay, we've built the image, and now we're going to need to tag it. And we're going to, when you're tagging it, you're really just giving it like a special name so that anyone else that pulls it with that special name automatically gets that version of your image. Okay, so we're going to copy this tag, and we're going to run that in the terminal. Okay, we're going to push that here. Oh, interesting. It says, error response from the daemon, no such image, network, cross account, Docker app latest. Whoa, interesting. Did you get that too, Maximus?
I did get that.
Yeah.
Issue.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of an issue here with using this. And what I'm going to do first is try to figure out, oh, can we try build this image one more time? So you can try go back into step 1 actually of this guide and try see if you can use buildx one more time to just build the image again. Okay, give that a go and see if it works for you. So we're going to build that image one more time using the buildx commands like this. There's always a way around it. So you can try build your image one more time like this. Okay, while it is building, okay, you can see off it goes. While it's building, you can copy the command to tag your image again, like this. Okay, oh, it's taking its sweet time today. That's totally okay. And let's see if we can just tag it and push it again. Oh, okay, it says again, no such image. Next to cross account Docker app latest. Well, the reason for that actually is because when we built this image, we're not actually tagging it with latest. So what's going to happen here is I think there's a bit of actually correcting on our side on fixing this command. But in the meantime, let us just use that second command as a backup option. So let us copy that second command in the push command window, and let's run that instead. So let's run that second command and see what happens. Again, we're building the image one more time. Okay.
I love this though. It's like live problem solving.
Yeah, it is. I was not expecting this, to be honest, but that's okay. So we're just going to use that second command, and we're going to run that third command. Oh, just like that third command actually worked pretty well. So that third command just tagged the image that we've created with the tag latest. Okay, if you don't see anything pop up in the terminal, that actually means that it ran okay.
Nice.
Okay, so that means there were no issues there. Cool. So I think if we're ready, let us have a look at what was that fourth command, okay, in the build window, in the push command window. Okay, so we're going to get to the really exciting part where we're finally pushing the image to the newly created AWS repository. Isn't it so cool, by the way, Maximus? So far, everything has just been in the commands. Like,
yeah, it's really cool.
Like, this is stuff that usually you would need to click around in the AWS Management Console to do. Maybe there will be a button that's like, upload your container image, and then you have to drag and drop something, maybe. But right now, we're just needing the terminal.
We're about to push it.
And we're about to push it into the cloud.
Also, shout out Desiree. He said, hi team, Desiree from Mali. Nice to see you team up Nat and Max.
This is so cool. Wow. And a big shout out to Kemi as well. Thank you so much for letting us know you're running off to a meeting now. Ciao. Thanks so much for staying for the 2 hours we've been live so far, Kemi. It means a lot to us.
Oh.
Her voice is. I will fix that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have Yash saying, Nat, your voice is echoing. Thank you so much, Yash. Maximus has just muted himself now, so hopefully that helps. And we'll just be a bit more mindful about the echoing. Thank you so much. Desiree, thank you so much for the shout out too. And I think we haven't mentioned yet, but Sahed actually mentioned something very important as well in the chat, saying, I think it's better to use CLI. It just helps with like proper flawless communication. And it really does. It really does. Okay, I'm now going to switch back to Maximus's screen so you can see how things are looking on his end. So how are things looking for you, Maximus?
Things are looking good.
Yeah?
Looking good. We scroll back up here. If we go to our terminal, I've just ran the fourth command here.
Ah, you ran the fourth
success.
command. Good.
And then if we pop that down here, where am I looking at?
Oh, we have skipped that question. We'll come back to it, but we'll just finish this step first.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I pushed it, and then we go to what does that command do? So Docker push, we kind of ran through this a little bit, but essentially we're uploading a local Docker image to the container registry for us.
Yes,
That's ECR. So pushing your image makes your image available for others to pull and deploy.
So should we see the moment of truth? What's really going to happen here is if you've pushed it successfully, you should be able to see your image pop up in your ECR registry. Ooh, should we see it? So head back to your ECR console and refresh it.
Nice. Let's
What? Look at that.
It worked.
It did work.
Now that is a good feeling now.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. So look at that. Something that you were building in your local terminal popped up in the cloud now. It's like right in front of you now in AWS.
That is awesome.
So try to give it a guess. What do you think you're seeing right now? What do you think you've just uploaded?
Well, I'm guessing we uploaded our container image.
Great.
But I was a bit surprised that there's 3 different images here.
Yeah, we have an explanation on what that means.
I
Yeah.
can see that. I haven't read the explanation.
Okay,
yet,
I'm
but
sorry.
I was a little bit confused by those 3.
Okay, cool.
So this is a great pop-up here. Why are there 3 images in the repository? You'd only see one container image.
Oh, you might to unmute yourself.
Oh. Can you... Okay, this might be better. So I was just saying that I was really surprised that there was 3 images in here. I thought there would only be 1, and then there's a beautiful pop-up here written by Nat, which says, why are there 3 images in my repository? You'd only see 1 container image in your ECR if you built it using the simple build command in ECR's push command window. Okay? But you'll see 3 if you built it using the buildx command in step 1. Since you pushed a container image that supports 2 architectures, AMD 64 and ARM 64, each architecture could appear as separate images in your repository. And we did do that in step 1, even though we just reran that as just with the build command earlier. A tagged image will also appear twice if you have multiple images. It will appear once in order with other images, and then again at the top of the list. Cool.
How did that sound? Was that a bit confusing?
It made sense. The second part made sense to me that, okay, there's 3 because we've supported with multiple architectures.
Yeah.
But then we just reran the second command.
We did.
So that confused me a little bit.
Yeah. I think what was really happening there is, okay, we had commands 2, 3, 4. Okay, command 2, build. Command 3, tag. Command 4, push. Where that error happened was command 3, tag. Tagging it was a bit of an issue. So what wasn't the issue was building it. Actually, we've actually already built the image. The issue was actually figuring out how to tag it and then send it up, and then we could send it up to the cloud. So I think what would have happened is we reran that second command of building it so that it could have the correct name for our third command to find the image and then tag it.
I see.
But actually, what we've really just done there is we've named it properly when we ran that second command, and then the third command could actually find that image and then tag it. But since we've already actually built that image before, it came with like the two other, like it came in the form of like the two architectures it supported because we ran buildx first. And then when it tagged it, it actually tagged the image that supports the two architectures. So now when it's pushed, it's like pushing that version. It's like pushing our container image that can support both architectures. Were you confused by that last sentence about how the latest thing will appear twice?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's have a look in your ECR repository right now. Do you see how there's 3 lines and the top line says latest?
Mm-hmm.
And do you see how the artifact type says image index? So you can think of that latest, that image index, as almost like a favorites bar. Okay? So it's almost like your favorites bar is over here, but then those bottom 2 are actually just like everything in the usual order. So you have everything in the usual order and then the favorites bar at the top. So do you see how that favorites bar at the top is technically actually just a repeat of something that's in the usual order? Okay, so what's really happening is you have 2 versions, and then the top one that says latest is just like, oh, you've also like have this as a favorite. So if you want to scroll a little bit on that images window, scroll to a little bit, yeah, very good. You're gonna see that the size in MB is like 69.59. And do you see that there's actually another image with that exact size? So what's really happening here is that image index is basically just like a favorite for that bottom one there. So now when someone else pulls latest, they're pulling like the favorite, which is that one. Yeah.
I see.
Okay, that does make a lot more sense.
Okay.
That clears it up.
I hope so. All right.
Cool. So now we can take a screenshot of our ECR repository page. So I can take a screenshot of this. Perfect. I snap that. I put it in here. And then it's loaded. And then now we can answer the second question, which is, what command did you run to push your container image to ECR? To push my container image, I ran the command, and if I'm not mistaken, we ran this command up here, which is command number 4.
That's right, yeah. If you're having trouble finding it, you can go back to your push command window in ECR and find that there too.
Cool. I will scroll down. And then our push command is here. So it's docker push is what we ran.
That's right.
Nice. I ran the docker push command. Pushing means we're essentially pushing or sharing our resources to the cloud.
Yeah, you're essentially uploading your container image into the cloud, i.e. into the ECR repository.
Container image to the cloud. ECR repository.
Nice work. And you're also going to notice that we have skipped the question just now. Maximus, would you like to demonstrate how to use that sidebar, the contents list, to skip to a question that's not complete yet?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and click done for this. And you see when I go in here, the bottom one's done, but we still have one task to complete here. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to scroll all the way back up.
So handy.
Which I wonder if people in the chat who have done a lot of projects, have you been using that feature before? Super interested to know.
Yeah, we are too.
Cool. And then this question here is, what does it mean to tag your image as latest? So when I built my image, I tagged it with the label.
We did tag it with the label latest. Yeah, and that really means, again, it really means that you're almost highlighting that version of your container image. And that means when my project buddy, so when Maximus or when Natasha pulls my image from the cloud and into their local computer, if they use that tag latest, they will always be pulling the latest version of my container image. They won't be pulling an old version of my container image that's outdated. They're always pulling the most up-to-date version.
Okay, so this means that my buddy will always pull the latest version of my container image. Awesome. And we can skip to part 2 now. Discuss with your project. Discuss with your project buddy. Look at each other's first 3 push commands. What differences can you spot?
That's right. Well, I wonder how we can do this easily. How about this? I'm gonna again paste my first
the
3
YouTube?
commands into the chat, and we're gonna keep your screen on so you can still see.
cool.
So here's my first command. Okay. Here's what the second command looks like for me. And everyone in the chat, you can also check out third command. You can also check out whether or not you can spot the difference. Okay, and we have Leroy Omabwe saying, I honestly didn't know that feature was there.
Yes.
I mostly just scrolled. This new feature is super helpful and super handy. We're so glad. It's such an easy way to skip to whatever tasks you haven't completed yet.
Bit of a secret one.
Yeah, Arvin says, yeah, me neither. Or, yeah, me too. Arvin, I hope you use that feature now too. Alright, so Maximus, you can see that I have my first command, my second command, and my third command all given to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very specific difference there.
The first thing I notice is that I think this my access ID? Is slightly different to yours.
Yeah, it is slightly different, isn't it?
That's the first thing I notice.
Okay, very cool.
And then if we go to command 3, because of the 250 character limit, again, my ID is different to yours in command 3 as well.
Yeah.
I think our second command is the same.
Yes. So interesting, okay? We're on completely separate AWS accounts, but the commands we're pushing are actually so similar that the only difference is a specific ID. Your guess is that it's the access key ID?
Yeah, I don't know what
Not
else it could
sure?
be.
Do you know how to check your AWS account ID?
I do.
How would you
I
check
would
that?
go into here and I would go to the top right of my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, we can see this.
And then I'd click in here and my account ID is in there, which matches up to what I just saw.
Yeah. So what's really happening here is the key takeaway to know here is commands are honestly not very unique. Okay, just because you have a certain kind of like repository or you have a certain kind of account, a command can only be unique in terms of like who you are and your identifiers. Okay, so your account ID, what is your repository name, what region are you in? That's like, those are like, it's almost like demographic data, and that's the only way that a command can really be personalized or tailored to you. And because of that, it's the reason why account IDs look so complicated, because it's one of the only ways you can really differentiate yourself from someone else. Cool. So, well, I guess that rounds it up. The difference that we can spot is really the account IDs.
The account IDs. Nice.
Cool.
And then we can hit done.
Dunzos. Okay. We're now in the final stretch, Maximus. Only 2 steps left.
Nice.
So we're like up to like the really interesting, cool parts.
The fun part's nice. Okay.
No, the whole project.
The
is
whole
fun.
thing is fun.
What
That
are
is
you
true.
talking about?
That is true. It's just I wish I had someone else as a buddy, but you know you can't win them all. Anyway, I think we should continue on with the project.
In front of everyone? Damn, Maximus.
No, it's only because Nat is so good. But actually, in saying that, I learned so much off her. So it is, it's really nice to have such a good buddy.
It's hard to take that seriously now.
What? Cool. So in this next part here, we're going to push your image to ECR. So back in your ECR console, copy the 4th.
I think you're.
Which you've already done.
Which you've already
actually
done. We're actually up
Because we
to step
skipped
6.
a step.
Yeah, we did. So we're now up to step 6, which is where we're here for the ultimate crossover. This is the reason why it's multiplayer, everyone. It's time to share your container image with your player, with your buddy, and see if you can actually pull each other's container images and run that containerized app. Oh, I love this part. So let's give it a go. Yeah?
Cool.
Let's go.
Cool. So in this step, pull and run player A's container image. Player B, are you ready for the ultimate crossover? I am ready for the ultimate crossover. It's time to share your container image with player A and pull their container image too. Okay, this is big. So in this step, we're going to pull player A's container image, which we can type in here. In this step, I will pull Matt's container image because I want to see it.
Yeah. That's it?
I want to see it. And then part 2, discuss with your project buddy, what do you think you'd need to pull each other's container images?
Oh, can I turn that question back on you, Maximus? I feel like it would be unfair if I said this.
I feel like it would need to be something to do with either what their repository is called or their access key. That's where my mind is going.
Yeah, I like it. I really like the way you're thinking about it. So don't forget, just now we had push commands, right? And when we viewed those push commands, we saw, oh, interesting. Our commands look very, very, very similar. The only things that are different is our account ID. So that's actually a huge hint on what we actually need. We actually need to just run very, very similar commands, and the only difference in those commands is each other's account IDs.
Oh, wow.
So what's going to happen here is let's definitely not share access keys. That should always be kept to yourself.
Yeah, I don't know who would say that.
We'll just be running a few commands. Okay, so let's do that.
Okay, so in here, we would need each other's account ID. Nice. We can hit done. And now let's authenticate to ECR again. Ask player A to share with you their first push command to their private repository. Run that command in your terminal. So I'm going to need Nat to send me her first push command to their private terminal.
Yeah.
And then I guess I will also be sending the same.
That's true. So, shall I share with you mine?
Yes, please.
I'll put it in the chat.
And I will also put it in the chat.
I'm going to mark mine as Nat so you can see mine.
Okay, nice. I just put mine after yours.
Okay, I've sent it.
Nice. So now I can copy this and I can run this command in the terminal. So we can go back to the terminal here and I can copy this in and hit enter.
What do we see?
We see login succeeded. Wow, so does this mean I'm now in I now have access to your ECR terminal? Wait, this is kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So what have I just done now?
Yeah. So do you want to have a look at what we've written in the project guide, actually?
That's probably a great place to start. How did that work? How am I logged in? Okay, questions that I just had. This login process doesn't actually check whether you have access to specific images or repositories. It's just trying to authenticate your AWS credentials against ECR. So when you saw a login success message, this means partner B's ECR is giving you validation that you can run ECR commands. The real test of permissions comes when you try and push or pull specific images from the repository.
Yeah, it's honestly such an abstract thing to think about, which is why we wrote that little helper text. But I feel like it deserves a bit of a talking kind of explanation too. So let's talk about this. What really happened there when you ran that command is you have basically just reached the gates of my ECR kind of service. Okay, so imagine you, okay, holding your user. Okay, you are your user, your ECR access user, and you run this command that includes literally my repository ID and everything. Oh, no, sorry, not my repository ID, but more my ECR's ID. So you've actually just reached the main gates of my ECR service. You haven't actually gone inside and seen my repository. You're at the main gates, and you're saying, knock, knock. Can you please open the door and let me use this service, ECR. And ECR is going to say, yeah, you can use the ECR service. Let me open the gates. Okay, you already have permissions to use ECR in your user. Your user comes with those permissions. So of course I can't say no. But when it comes to actually getting access to the images inside this account, to get access to the actual repository and all of the good, like, juicy content that you want, that's a different story. Okay, that first command simply just opened the gates for you to use ECR in the first place, but it doesn't actually give you access to all of the images and all of the images and all of the, like, repository, all of the resources that's inside. When it says login succeeded, you've technically just logged into ECR. You haven't really logged into the other users, like, repository yet.
Yeah. So the way that I'm picturing it in my mind is that there's an ECR with a big gate, and this command allowed me to open the gates, but now I've gone into this kingdom of ECR, and Nat has a house there, and I can't get access into a house yet.
Yeah.
But I can get access into my house.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah, that's a really, really good way to think about it. I think it sometimes feels a little confusing because literally that command itself has my account ID in it. So it feels like you're going into something that's very personal to me. What's really happening there is you absolutely need to run that command first to even try to get access to my images later on. But that command, first thing, all it does is it accesses ECR, the gates to ECR. It doesn't actually open the gates to all of my images and everything inside yet. That's, I think, the big takeaway about this command.
I see.
So next, it's time for the big reveal. Drum roll, please.
Let's go.
Or I'll just maybe tap my keyboard because it's so loud. And we will pull player A's container images from their repository. Ask player A, so Miss Nat,
Yes.
for the URI of their latest container image, and get ready to give them your latest container images URIs too. So now, from the previous steps, I know where my URI is.
Do.
So Nat, I'm gonna have to ask for yours,
Yes, and I
and
will
then
ask
I
for
will
yours.
also send mine in the chat.
Cool. And I'm gonna mark mine as Nat as well, so you can see which one's mine.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
So now I can copy in Nat's URI, and if you're not sure where to find this, go to your ECR page, and then click into your repository here. And then if you scroll across to the right-hand side, you'll see for the top one, that favorites bar, you can copy the URI just from the right-hand side here. Cool?
Nice
So
work.
now what I'm doing is I've copied over Nats, and I can scroll down. And now that you've swapped container images, make sure to have Project B's URI handy somewhere. You'll use it a few times in this project. Oh. Now discuss with your buddy, what is player B's latest image URI?
Oh, actually,
I think
apologies
it's
for
supposed
all
to
the
say
typos.
player A's
All
URI.
of that's supposed to say player A. So sorry for the typos, everyone. I will be going in and making those manual changes right after this live. But all of that should be saying player A.
But good things for us to spot out.
Yeah, thank you.
Good things to keep us on topic.
Cool. So do you have my latest image URI?
I do have it, and
Okay,
I can copy it in here and hit done.
that's right.
Awesome. So in your local terminal, run the Docker command for pulling someone else's image. Make sure to replace player B URI with the latest image's URI.
Yeah, sorry, that should be saying player A URI as
That's
well.
okay.
Thank
So-
you so much.
We can replace this. So I can go copy code, and now I've got this in here. We're going to go into our terminal again, and I'm going to paste this in here. And then I can use the arrow keys and the backspace key to delete here. And I want to put in Nat's URI here
Yeah.
and paste that in.
Yeah. And while we're doing that, how is everyone finding this project demo so far? I know we've like gone a good few steps in now. Are we feeling lost? Is this feeling clear? Is the story straight? Let us know what you're thinking. All right, back to you, Maximus.
Cool. Well, I've pasted it in here. I think I can hit enter now.
What's
And we've got an error response.
Yeah, we do.
Error response from Damon. Failed to resolve reference. Okay.
Keep going.
30666
Don't keep going like that. What is going on, my friend? Look at the end of the error message here.
Oh, the end of the error message.
What does it say?
Unexpected status from head request.
Da-da-da-da.
And then it says
At the very, very
403 forbidden.
Forbidden.
Yeah.
So
Forbidden.
what kind of vibe?
We need access.
Ah.
We need access now.
Ah, he's getting it.
We are.
He's
So we
getting
can
it.
go back to the guide here.
That's
Of
right.
course, naturally Nat has thought of everything. The error is in here. You can see it. And this error message in the terminal says, indicates that Docker couldn't pull a Docker image from Amazon ECR. Okay. The specific error is a 403 forbidden response, which usually points to an issue with permissions or access rights. Okay, that's what we thought, which is cool. Since repositories with ECR are private by default, both you and player A have set up private repositories that no one else can access until you give someone else specific permissions.
Yeah, so what we've set up are private repositories, my friends. Do you see even in the left-hand navigation panel for Maximus, it's images that highlight a thing is under the heading private registry. So what's really happening here is it's so private that literally no one else can have access until we give it to them specifically. And that's the reason why we can just openly paste the links to our registries in the chat. Because actually we know that even if you have access to that link, you can't actually get access to the registry itself until we give you specific access.
Cool.
So let's take a screenshot.
Let's take a screenshot. So we're going to go back to our terminal and just take a screenshot of this error right here. Nice. And I'm going to paste that into our box here and then move on to the next question. Why was there an error message when you pulled your project buddy's image? When I tried pulling my project buddy's container image for the first time, I saw the error 403 forbidden. And this was because we each had created a private registry ECR.
Yeah, so you can say this is because the repository we created with ECR were private repositories. When it's private, no one else can have access until we give them specific permissions. And in brackets, we haven't given each other permissions.
So we need to give each other specific permissions to gain access. Nice. And then last point here, check in with your buddy. Is your buddy facing the same issue? Make a guess. How do you think you'll solve this?
Yeah, shall we do the big reveal? Let's see what's on my screen. And you can see too on my screen. Oh, I'm going to click this closed. Look at that. I tried to pull your image. And this was the response.
Oh no.
Oh, so it was something kind of similar.
Hmm.
There says no such file or directory, etc. And this is actually a very, very similar manifestation of the same like error there.
403
Yeah,
forbidden.
403. So it just says like, no, this doesn't exist, but really it's also because like you're just not allowed to even get access to it. Cool. So shall we move into how we're going to solve this error?
Yes.
Let's do that.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to just switch into the project guide now. So we're all seeing the project guide on my screen here. Cool. And let's talk about it. Oh, I think you actually are still seeing my other screen, which is quite funny. Is it working? Oh, the project, I think it's still showing the wrong screen. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Okay. Reminder, everyone, you're so close. We're about to just do the last step for this project. Okay, we're truly on the final stretch. And Malcolm, I see that you have a question. You're saying, out of topic, I get this IAM error. This account does not have access to the Cloud9 service. Yes, I think it is best if you check out the community to see what's the latest update on this, because we've created a new project to replace the Cloud9 one. So you can do the same thing with the new tool that you actually have access to. It's called, oh, Maximus, I think you're about to send it. Thank you so much for sending it in the chat. That's very helpful. Okay, so while Maximus, you do that, I'm just gonna focus us back into the project. We are now up to step 7, where we're going to resolve some permission issues. All right, player A, that's me, we've got a problem. Your AWS account can't actually access player B's repository yet. So we're gonna fix that by first fixing some permission settings in our ECR repository, and then we're gonna pull and run player B's container image one more time, and then we're gonna see player B's application live, and we're gonna see his secret code, the thing that he's been hiding since step 1.
Nice.
Okay, so in this step, oh, Malcolm says, thank you, appreciate your help, team. You're so welcome, Malcolm, and thank you for asking the questions. Cool. In this step, we will fix permission issues with ECR, because our project buddy, Maximus, currently does not, and I'm going to do the dramatic not, does not have access to our repository. Once we gain access, we'll be able to see Maximus's, we'll be able to run a container with his image and see Maximus's application live. All right, shall we give that a go? So we're going to switch tabs back to our AWS Management Console, and we're going to head to the ECR console in a new tab now. Okay, so we're going to head to the ECR console again, but this time in a new tab. So what this is going to look like is you can right click on repositories, for example, and open link in a new tab like this. Okay, and once you're here, whoa, look at this. You now get to select your repository. Okay, and you can select actions, permissions like this. Whoa, look at this. So now we've selected our repository, we've selected permissions. We now are in the page where we can adjust the permission settings for our registry specifically. So this is a very, very cool place where you can just be very, very flexible and be like, okay, for my specific repository, here are the people who can get access. So let us edit the policy JSON, which means we can edit the policy that's written in code form, basically. And our project guide actually provides a code that you can copy. So what this looks like is, this code looks like this. Okay, and it really just follows the classic like AWS JSON policy format. What's going to be important for us to replace here is what says player, where it says player B ARN. Okay, player B ARN is where we need to replace it with Maximus's user's ARN. If you're unsure of what ARN means, ARN is basically just the resource number, or just like a resource ID. Okay, and every single resource you create in AWS has an ARN, including IAM users. Okay, and so we're gonna ask Maximus to share with us his IAM user's ARN and send that to us so we can manually give that user access to our repository. Okay, so it's gonna be okay if you're feeling a little confused now, because it's gonna make a lot of sense as well when you do it in action. Okay, I've pasted the JSON policy that gives anyone access to be able to get our images, to be able to download our container images, and then we're gonna replace this with Maximus's ARN.
Which I just sent in the YouTube chat.
No way, that was so
Yes.
fast. Thank you so much, Maximus. Let me use that link. So we're gonna copy that link and let's paste that in here. Super neat. Thank you so much, Maximus.
No worries.
That looks great. So I'm gonna save that. And that's my permissions updated. What I've just done is I've literally just given Maximus's user, the specific user that he has called ECR access. We've given that user access to our repository. And what Maximus's user can now do there are these 3 actions, which are basically to download our container image. That's it. Maximus's user can now download our container image, and don't forget, this is the user that Maximus is using in the CLI, which means he can now run the CLI commands that lets him download our container image in the store. Cool. If you're unsure how to even get this ARN, you're like, oh my god, I kind of remember creating an IAM user. I don't remember doing the rest. I don't know how to find the ARN. It's okay. All you gotta do is find your user again, okay? And if you don't even know how to get here, that's okay. All you gotta do is search in your console. You can go IAM user, for example, and then it will instantly give you this little link to go straight to the users tab in IAM. You can just click on your user called ECR access, and then there you go. You can find the ARN right here. Okay, so you can copy it like this, and I can send that to Maximus in the chat again. So Maximus, ooh,
Thank you very much.
let me send that to you. I'm gonna tag it as net. There you go. So you can see my ARN now. I'll send that through to you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, so with that done, we can now talk about this. Check in with your project buddy. What is your project buddy's role ARN? Have you added it to your repository's policy JSON? Have you saved your changes? Yes, we have, okay? So I'm just gonna be at the top say, okay, this is Maximus's roles ARN. We have added it to our repository's policy JSON, and we've saved our changes. Nice. With that done, okay, we can now answer this question. What did you and your buddy update in your repository? To resolve each other's permissions, my buddy and I, what do we do? Okay, let's just give you a hint. I'll let you think about this for a second, and then we're gonna answer it together. Cool. I hope we're feeling ready to answer this question. Okay, so let's do this. To resolve each other's permission errors, my buddy and I updated our ECR's permission settings to specifically allow each other's ECR access user to have the permission to download our container image. To download the container images in our ECR repository. That is such a long sentence. I'm just reading it over again. And really what we're trying to do here is we've updated our ECR's permission settings. Now, we've updated our ECR repositories permission settings. Now, we've specifically allowed each other's ECR access user to have the permission to download container images in our ECR repository. It sometimes is a bit confusing because you're doing it for each other. But if we're just thinking about it from one person's point of view, what we've just done is we've given Maximus the access to download images in our repository. That's it. That's what we've done. What Maximus has just done is he's given specific access to us, or really to my IAM user, to have the ability to download the images in his repository. Okay, shall we give that new update a test?
Yeah.
Shall we see if we can actually load each other's container
Let's do
images
it.
now? So how we're going to do this is we're going to go back into the terminal, okay? And we're going to try repeat the commands, okay? So what that's going to look like is in the terminal. Righty-ho, let me get my terminal up. Okay. I couldn't pull the repository before, but can I pull from the repository now? Oh, actually, I just realized I might need to switch to your screen instead, Maximus. Yeah.
No problem, no
Can
problem.
you give it a go, please?
I just pulled, but I will pull again. And I press the up arrow on my keyboard,
Yeah.
and then that returns the last command, and then I can hit enter. And as you can see, I think it's pulled, right?
It has.
Let's
It has
go.
pulled.
Let's go.
You've just gotten my container image.
Stolen Nat's work. That's what I've done.
That is one way to look at it. That is a very, very specific way to look at it. Unique point of views from Maximus Suarez.
No problem. Happy to offer.
Okay, very, very well done. So can I also check that you've given me permission, Maximus? We're still seeing your screen here.
Oh, should have done.
Oh, you sure have.
Do you still not have permission yet?
Well, it's telling me that your image does not exist, which is making me a little confused. We honestly can still continue this project demo with just what's going on your screen, but I'm honestly just curious whether this is
Interesting.
something other students are going to run into, that's all.
How would you go about troubleshooting this, Nat?
I think that there might be something... Oh, I think there was something wrong with how I ran the command. Oh, there is something wrong with how I ran the command. So,
Yeah, maybe go back to your screen, yeah.
So what I've just run, so honestly, sometimes when you see an issue, the first thing to do is just double check whether you run a command correctly. Can you tell what my error is? What the error is with my command?
Is it the...
Okay, it starts here. Docker pull. This is my command. Can you tell what my error is? You can compare with what command you run.
Docker pull. Oh, you've put in next work there.
Yeah.
Instead of just my
Just your image URI.
Yeah, the image URI.
Yeah, that's right. So when I copied your image URI, I think I accidentally copied something that was formatted with the YouTube comment, which is my mistake. So really, the error only just lies in whatever command I ran. So shall I give this another go? Yeah,
Erwin, spot on.
Spot on. So let me try to pull it again. Let's hope it works. Oops. It looks like, now can you tell what my error could be?
No such file or directory. Cross Docker. Docker pull. So does it mean that it doesn't exist on my end?
No, it means I think I have an extra space.
Oh.
Do you see how it says no such file or directory? And oh, sorry, it just went into dark mode on my computer.
Whoa.
I think what's happened here is I think there might be an extra space in my command. So I'm going to see if I just delete that. Okay. There we go. I'm
Nice.
now pulling your image, your container image. It's now worked.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Look, Erwin is on it. The paste inserted an extra CR.
My goodness. That is so spot on, Erwin. Thank you so much.
But also good to note that the command line is space sensitive.
It really is space sensitive. Yes, ahead, Nat missed some commands.
Oh,
maybe?
Nat in capital though. It's like yelling, Nat, you missed some commands.
Hey now. You're putting poor Ahead in a tough place. Okay, so now that we have our container image with us, I'm going to switch back to Maximus's screen.
Okay, awesome.
You now have the power.
So, we have who you should be able to pull player A's container image now, which we've done. And this is exactly what mine looks like. Now that you have player A's container image with you, run this command to run a container with this image.
That's right. So are we Are we running the container image or are we running a container?
Ooh. We're running the container?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you say Docker run,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you give it a container images URL, you're actually just running a container that's almost been like created based on the template that you've given it. So you're actually running a container here.
And in this case here, Nat, would I have to substitute this to your URI?
That's correct. That's
Nice.
correct.
So I'm going to copy this code in, and then I'm going to go into here. Ooh. That looks like it wouldn't run properly, right?
No, well, do you still remember what you can do to exit?
Control C.
Control C. Yes, press Control
I can
C
go
if you ever want to
Docker.
refresh.
And then
Mhm.
now I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to go back here to get Nat's URI, which is here.
Great memory.
Copy it over,
Great memory.
and then hit enter. Repository name ECR must be lowercase.
I tricked you.
Oh. Oh.
Look at this, my friend. What were you running? What were you running just now? Okay,
Docker
so
run?
we need the other player's container image URI. If you scroll up, what was that thing that you saved? That was
This?
my role ARN.
Oh.
That was my role ARN, which isn't quite
Wow,
related here.
that is. And you've even said that I have a great memory. Meanwhile, I've just copied the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is quite mean, Nat. But great lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to copy this code again,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think your URI was actually in the YouTube live.
It is in the YouTube. Do you see it? Oh, actually, I think it's in this tricky place. So let me actually just send it to you again.
I think it's this one. It starts with 306.
It does, but okay, actually yes, I think you've got it.
Is this one here?
Okay, yeah, it is that.
Nice. So we can hit enter. Image is up to date. Okay.
Wait, you've run a Docker. You've just run a Docker pull command though.
Did I?
Yeah. I think in your terminal it says Docker pull. We want to just do a Docker run. We want to just do a Docker run. Do you see how at the top of your?
Oh, I see. Okay.
You're close though. You're super close. All you've done just now is you pulled my container
Docker
image
run.
again, but we actually just want to run.
I was like, we've already seen this one, mate.
Yeah, we have.
Sorry, everyone. Bear with me. We will get there.
Maximus is loading.
Docker run.
He's loading. He's learning live.
It's past my bedtime. I need coffee, even though I don't drink coffee. Okay.
You've
It
just
looks
done
like that worked.
You worked. It
Docker
did.
did run.
Yes. So you can now actually see my containerized application somewhere.
And I remember these commands also from the last Docker project.
It is. It is from the
Talking about the different ports that it receives it from, right?
Yeah, that's
And then
right.
dash D is also detachable.
Yes, it
I
does
remember
mean
that.
that you're running it in the background, in detached form, making it accessible through port 80 on your local machine. Now, we're not going to talk about this in too much detail in this project because this project's topic is really more about ECR. But if you want more details, I'd highly recommend checking out the previous project in that series. I'm going to find the link to that and put it in the chat now so you can check it out.
And I can see we're on our last step here.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to copy in and go to a new browser here, and I'm just going to type in localhost. Oh my goodness. Wow. Hello from the Nextwork community. I will zoom in so everyone can see this. You've already seen it though if you're here from the start of the live. Hello from the Nextwork community.
That's my app.
If you can see this, you've deployed my app. Nice work. You've unlocked my secret code. Fried rice with salted
With
rice,
salted
which is one of Nat's favorite dishes.
Actually, I was supposed to write salted fish, but I think
Yeah, I don't think
I think I got
two
distracted.
rice dishes. Nah. Something I've learned about you today is you struggle with sharing your screen. I did originally. Now we've definitely gotten better. And here's a special image chosen by me. Is this supposed to be like a self-portrait of yourself? It looks really nice. Wow, this is actually one of the better photos that I've seen Nat in.
Oh!
Wow, so stunning
I
as
feel like
always.
I didn't know that when I invited you for this live, I'd just be signing up to be getting attacked in front of all of our
I
precious
think
students.
no, I think if Joe's still here or Owen's still here, they can back me up.
Is that true? Is that true, everyone? All right, so shall we also review your containerized
Yeah, let's
app?
see.
So I'm gonna switch to my screen. Oh, we have Milia in the chat saying, guys, you're heroes. I reckon we should skip our today's call. It's Uliana. Thank you so much,
Hey,
Uliana.
Liana.
Thank you so much for your patience. And for context, everyone, we were thinking that we could have a call with our top community members tonight. But I'm seeing that Uliana is recognizing that it's late in the night now. And she's saying, oh, we can skip the call. We can keep on going next week. I really appreciate it, Uliana. And I agree. It sounds good. We'll see you next week. And thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thank you,
so
Liana.
much.
Appreciate it.
Sending lots of love to you. All right. So from my end, let us give this a go. Do we still remember what the command would be? It's docker run -d, and then we're selecting the port 8080. Okay, so we're mapping port 80 of the container to port 80 on our local machine. And then I'm gonna press this. Now there might be an error, by the way, everyone. We're gonna see if I run into it. Oh, I don't. Okay. If one error that I ran into when I tested this project is it might tell you that your port has been taken up by something else. If you see that error, we have the tips for troubleshooting that in the guide too. But without further ado, let us actually run localhost and see Maximus's secret code and containerized application, shall we?
Let's do
Do
it.
it. Let's do it.
I'm so nervous. Okay, let us see it. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh my gosh, here we are. Thank you so much, Maximus. Wow, look at this.
Yeah, actually really nice to with that photo.
I was gonna say that is actually the kindest photo I could imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have time to airdrop it from my phone, but there's plenty of worse photos I could have chosen.
God damn it. Hello from Maximus, your favorite co-worker at Nextwork. I don't think this is for me then.
Yeah, this is definitely for Nat.
If you can see this, you've deployed my app. Nice work. We've deployed it. You've unlocked my secret code. Momos. Momos is his favorite food.
Shout out if anyone in the chat knows what Momos is as well.
Yeah, sounds good. I've never had momos before, so we're gonna have to try it
We're
out.
gonna have
everyone.
to. We're gonna have to.
give Maximus's favorite food some justice. All right, team. So we've made it to the very end of today's project. What's really left for us to do is to take screenshots and wrap up our work. So that was so cool. I have figured out some way to actually deploy your app. And
Yeah,
we
this
did
is.
it. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say it's so awesome.
Aw.
You know, it's really, really. Even the self-portrait that I get to see of Nat, amazing, amazing.
Hey now. I was actually trying to paint you. Don't be disrespectful to the painting. All right, we're gonna take screenshots of our work. Okay, and then we're gonna send that through to our step-by-step project guide. All right, so. Alrighty. Check in with your project buddy. What was the secret code showing on your screen? The secret code. The secret code on our screen was Maximus's favorite food. Momos. And Maximus can see our secret code too. Okay. Hit done. Keep on going. And yeah, we're now ready to delete our resources. It's time for the wrap up, Maximus. It's been a great project, and we're now on the way to just removing everything. If you're keen for a challenge, you can try delete all your resources without looking at the guide, but we'd highly recommend just checking the guide at the end anyway, just to make sure you've really deleted everything. Okay? The first thing you're going to want to delete is your ECR repository. Oh, do you
I
want to call
see.
the chat?
Yeah, I see some people in the chat. Let's end this live with a dance. I have not seen any other dish other than momos that we in India have made ours. So many varieties. It's very true. When I was in India earlier this year, and I am Indian as well. When I was in India, I had so many different types of momos. But the ones I'm talking about are Nepali. And Shahid says lungi dance. I don't know if you know what that is
I
now.
don't know what a lungi dance is.
Okay. Then, well, actually, I don't know if it's you can really do it. It's something that I can do, but we don't have any lungis here. Sorry, Shahid. And to any of our Indian audience who knows what that is, you will not be seeing me do that dance.
But oh damn! And then Praneeth is saying eating biryani and watching you guys. Wow!
Let's go.
What kind of biryani, Praneeth? Shout out to Arabin as well, saying exactly to Aman's comment. And we also have Erwin, the one that started it all. Let's end this YouTube live with a dance. Oh, Erwin. Okay, cool. Well, let us delete some stuff, okay? First thing we're going to delete is our repository. Head to the repositories page, okay, or head to the ECR console. Select your repository, select delete, confirm that deletion. Wow, isn't it crazy that when you delete things, literally your entire work is just gone now?
It's gone.
The container image you've built, everything that's in the cloud.
I know.
It's
Thank
so
goodness
hard.
that we have this documentation.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's no way of remembering what we did.
Yeah. All right, we're going to delete our container registry, our container repository. Up next, the IAM user. That's right, we really want to make sure we delete this. Okay, so if you weren't sure how to get there, again, you can search up IAM user in the search bar. Okay, you're going to find IAM like this. And then you can just hover over it and click on users. Like this. Okay, and once you're there, you can select the user you created, and that was ECR access. Okay, select delete, and off you go. You can confirm your deletion by typing in ECR access like this. Okay, delete the user. Don't forget, you have tried to also download a CSV file containing your access keys and everything. Let's make sure that CSV file doesn't exist anymore. So let us just make sure that gets deleted too. Find it in your downloads folder. Okay, if you need to find it in your Finder, find it in your downloads folder like this, and make sure it's deleted. Nice. Okay, so once that's deleted, your Docker resources are last. Don't forget, you were building images, you were pulling things. That's going to take up space in your computer. It's actually free to keep all of these. Okay, it's free to keep that Docker container, that Docker image. But we just, if you want to delete it, it is for the sake of saving space in your computer. Okay, so in your builds, for example, we can click on your images tab first, and we can make sure we delete everything like this. Actually, this is quite a useful thing for me to take a screenshot of, so I actually might just take a screenshot of this as well. So we have a reference. So delete this. Delete all your images, and then select delete forever like this. And you might even see that you failed to delete 2 images because they're still running. This is another important thing. You want to stop the containers that are running because they're also going to take up space and take up memory. If you don't stop them manually, they're just going to be running in the background for all time, and you wouldn't even realize and be like, oh, why is my computer so slow? All right, so you have your images, make sure you delete them after you stop your containers, okay? And your builds, absolutely, you can delete them too. So select all your builds, select delete, delete them forever. Okay, you don't need them. Okay, if some fail, that's okay. The ones that have failed are the ones that I'm using for other projects, so we'll leave those alone. Just make sure that the ones that you've deleted for this project are all deleted. The ones that you've created for this project are all deleted now. Okay, so I hope that was clear on how you can delete everything off of Docker 2. If you have any questions, ask them in the chat, ask them in the community, we'll be there. Okay, very nice. All right, so we're now ready to just answer a last few questions, and then we can generate our documentation. So what is Amazon ECR? How did you use it in today's project? Amazon ECR is an AWS cloud service that lets us store our container images in the cloud. Okay? In more technical terms, it is a managed container registry. What is one thing you didn't expect in this project? One thing we didn't expect in this project was, what is one thing you didn't expect?
For me, I didn't expect to see 3 images show up. I
Whoa.
only expected 1 to show
Yeah.
up in that step.
That's a very, very good one. Very, very cool. I think for me, one thing I didn't expect in this project was being able to run Maximus's first push command. First ECR push command, and seeing login succeeded. It was a learning to know that that authenticated us to ECR, the service, not the images and the resources inside. That was a bit of learning for myself. Cool. How much time did this project take you? This project took us 3 hours, including demo time and bets.
I don't know, this is all serious for me.
Thank you for doing this project. Why did you do this project today? Did this project meet your goals? Now please enter an answer that's true for you, true for yourself. This is something that we're very, very curious about because we want to continue improving the projects. We want to make sure these projects are hitting your goals. And this is just the best place for you to leave some feedback because we'll be looking at all of the responses here. Yeah? So I'll just be typing a placeholder answer. But really, I am hoping, and we are really hoping, to get to hear what you really think about this project. The reason for doing this project is to understand cloud, is to understand how containers work, and ECR is a big part of that. This project helped us use ECR and also work with a project buddy, which definitely met our goals. Alrighty, so that should be all of your responses covered for this project. So are you ready to head down and hit mission accomplished?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I actually love the confetti.
it is really nice.
The confetti is one of the best parts about finishing the project. I just love seeing it.
You just love seeing it? That's kind of cool. Alright, so shall we have a look? Ooh. Shall we have a look at our documentation? Ooh, here we go. So your documentation is actually going to show your project buddy's image
That's so
that
cool.
they've created for you, and it also collates all of the answers that you've been entering. If it ever has that handwriting icon, it means that your responses will get recorded in your documentation. And here they are, all together. Okay, we hope that you enjoy this documentation that gets produced. Let us know if you think it's reflected your work. Let us know if you think, oh, I feel like it would be nice if my documentation also included a part about this. In the meantime, you can absolutely share it on LinkedIn by pressing that share on LinkedIn button. Here we are. And look at this. You get a pre-filled LinkedIn post and it looks amazing. Okay? You get to change this tag to a proper next week tag like this. And then you get to close this and press that plus button more. Add media and upload the documentation that you've downloaded. I just realized this one isn't downloaded yet, so let me download it now for everyone. And then you can upload it very, very easily, just like this. Ooh, it's taking its time to download, everyone. That's okay. Oh, actually, it's because I've chosen the wrong button. I should be using the add a document button, choose the file, and then upload it just like this. And you can just easily just copy that name over here, make that your title, wait for that to upload, and then press done. Oh my goodness, so excited. It usually takes a bit of time at the end, everyone. That's okay. We'll let it take its time as we just do the wrap up. Okay, so nice work. Was that an entire hair project complete, Maximus? Nice work. We just completed a hair project together. Awesome work to the both of you, and that is a power duo in the making. We'll see if
It is.
We'll
It
see if
is.
it's a power duo if
It
it's
is.
myself and Maximus. Maybe the sentence doesn't really apply to us.
It is. Yeah, applies 100%.
Oh, thank you for your confidence. And today, you've learned how to build a custom Docker image. You did that, Maximus.
That
You
we
learned
did.
how to store your image in Amazon ECR. You did that. You learned how to configure IAM roles. You did that. And you also learned how to launch the other player's image in localhost. You did that. All right? You've done that whole thing. Okay? And it's amazing, really, that all of these learnings are packed in one single project. You've learned so much, I would say. Yeah?
I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot. It was so much fun. And thank you to everyone in the chat just for making it an awesome experience, being so friendly and welcoming,
Yeah.
and keeping the energy high the entire time.
Yeah.
This was it was such a cool project.
Awesome.
I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, shall we do a quick fire round of shout outs to all the comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Wow, we have Praneeth talking about his biryani. And we have.
Arvind said Yo-Yo Honey Singh, who's an Indian rapper. Shout out to Yo-Yo Honey Singh.
Sahid saying, anyway, guys, you have done a great job. Thank you, Sahid.
Thank you so much.
Aman says, thank you for today's session. Nat and Maximus.
And we also got Malcolm there. My first live I've joined. Looking forward to more great sessions. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. And great to have you the first live here.
Yeah, and we hope you get to sort out that VS Code project. We hope you get to work that out. And Yash Patel says, thank you, Max and Nat, for the today's session. Thank you so much. We have Joe and Aman adding lots of emojis in the chat.
It's funny that we can't see the emojis, we just see the text.
No, one day we'll be able to.
We see Erwin saying, "Where is the dance?" Unfortunately, Erwin, I was just about to play music, but I realized we'd get copyright striked on YouTube. So we can't dance. And you're certainly not going to get dancing without music. That is for sure.
We will dance on another occasion.
Yeah, we will dance on another occasion.
Thank you so much. I guess I'll take your word. What's the right phrase? Take up your word for it?
Yeah, that's definitely not the right phrase, but we'll go with it. Anyway, Desiree put some firework emojis in the chat. Let's go, Desiree. Great to have you here. Praneeth laughing face emoji. I hope the biryani was amazing, Praneeth.
Yes, we hope you had a really, really good lunch.
Sing and dance. Okay, I think it's time to end the live, guys.
Erwin! I never thought Erwin would be so persistent on this.
If you guys know, Nat is actually I'm not even kidding. Nat is actually a really good singer. She is really, really good, and she likes karaoke. So if we're ever in a community meetup, let's go to karaoke and get Nat to sing because she's actually really, really good.
Wow! And I think Maximus is a great rapper.
That's okay. This is just a blatant lie. I'm definitely not Yo-Yo Honey Singh. I'll tell you that for sure.
We have Aman saying momos for next session as well.
Momos for next session? I could be down for that.
Yeah.
I'll be leading more YouTube lives if that's the case.
Joe is also saying, take your word for it, is what I think you mean. Yeah, I think you're right there, Joe. Thanks for that. All right, everyone. We'll catch up in the community. This is so much fun. And honestly, thank you so much, Maximus, for doing this YouTube live with me.
No, thank you for having me, Nat, and thank you for everyone for being so supportive. This was really cool. As we said, it was my first time learning this, but I think the guide's awesome, and Nat is a great teacher.
Absolutely smashed it.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you in the next project. Catch up in the community in the meantime. There will definitely be community events to let you pair up with someone else in the community and work on this project together. So yeah, get excited for that. And if you have any other projects you want to see, always the community is the best place to be to let us know. All right. Well, that's it for today. That's a wrap. And we'll see you in the next project. Thank you, everyone.
Woo!
Woohoo! Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.